Chapter 35:51. The Red Nethermaster had used up a lot of his divine power in the fight with Jian Wushuang. Later, Jian Wushuang had used up 10% of his divine power in one strike. The Red Nethermaster had indeed used up more than 20% of his divine power. However, they were in the universe battlefield and the Nine Twists Demon Cave, the core area of Devil Smoke Valley. It was very difficult to recover divine power in the universe battlefield. At least, it was much more difficult than in other places. As a perfect life form, Jian Wushuang's divine power was incredible. However, he had lost 1/5 of his divine power in order to get the mysterious blade in the flame tide. Even though he had been in the universe battlefield for nearly 20 years, he still could not fully recover 1/5 of his divine power. It was difficult to recover divine power in the universe battlefield. As for Red Nethermaster's 20% godly power, it would take him at least several decades to fully recover it, and he would need some elixirs to assist him. It could be said that he had really failed this time. Red Nether. A deep voice suddenly sounded. Red Nethermaster turned to look at the source of the voice. When he saw the person who had come, he was not surprised. After all, his soul power had been spreading all this time. He knew that the other party had appeared within the range of his soul perception. Shue Kong, why are you here? Red Nethermaster asked. I happened to pass by here, so I wanted to say hello to you. However, you don't look too well. Did something happen? Shue Kong, a towering man with a body of more than 3 meters in golden armor, appeared in front of Red Nethermaster. Shue Kong. There were many dangers in the universe battlefield, but there were countless great beings who came to explore. Although these great beings came to different astral worlds or forces, sometimes they would come into contact with each other for common interests. After a long time, some of them could even become good friends. For example, the life and death brother of Heavy Master, Purple Sound Master, was not a member of Star Palace. As for Shue Kong and Red Nethermaster, they had been wandering around the Nine Twists Demon Cave all year round. They had frequent contact with each other and had a good relationship with each other. Red Nethermaster naturally was not too wary of Shue Kong. I just had a fight with someone and ended up being rejected, Red Nethermaster said. Oh. Shue Kong's expression changed. He took a careful look at Red Nethermaster and nodded slightly. Judging from the aura on your body, it has indeed weakened a little. However, given your temperament, if you encounter some powerful people in this Nine Twists Demon Cave, you won't fight with them at all. So, who exactly did you meet? Bloodsword Master, do you know? Red Nethermaster glanced at Shue Kong. Bloodsword Master? Shue Kong recalled for a moment, but he immediately remembered. Are you talking about that Bloodsword Master who made quite a name for himself in the outer area of Devil Smoke Valley some time ago? It's him. Red Nethermaster nodded. That's not right. Isn't that Bloodsword Master's strength not yet at the true level of the 6th realm of the void? With your strength, you should definitely be able to crush him. Shue Kong said strangely. I thought the same before, so I chose to attack without hesitation. But in the end, after I really fought with him, I realized that his strength is far from being as simple as the rumors say. He definitely has the combat strength of the 6th realm of the void, and he is definitely not weak among the 6 levels of the void. When I fought with him, not only did I not gain any upper hand, but I was also slightly suppressed by him. In the end, he even used his ultimate move and destroyed 10% of my divine power. I was so scared that I immediately ran away, Red Nethermaster said. Is there such a thing? Shue Kong immediately became interested. Quick, tell me in detail. Red Nethermaster did not hide anything and told Shue Kong about the battle. He did not exaggerate Jian Wushuang's strength. Instead, he told Xue Kong everything he knew. After hearing Red Nethermaster's words, the excitement in Xue Kong's eyes grew. He created several advanced Tier 6 skills at the same time, and he even created a peak Tier 6 skill. This Blood Sword Master is interesting. Visit Me for extra chapters. Why? Do you have any ideas about this Blood Sword Master? Red Nethermaster immediately looked over. I definitely don't have any big ideas. It's already very difficult to kill someone with his level of strength. I'm only interested in fighting with him. After all, it's rare for the 9 Twists Demon Cave to be lively. It's rare to meet an interesting newcomer. So of course I have to go and greet him, said Xue Kong with a smile. If you want to go, hurry up. You might be able to catch up with him before he gets too far, Red Nethermaster said. Then I'll go. Xue Kong did not hesitate and followed the direction that Red Nethermaster had pointed out. Xue Kong was extremely fast, and Jian Wushuang did not try his best to travel in the 9 Twists Demon Cave. He also did not change his direction, so it did not take long for Xue Kong to catch up with Jian Wushuang. Ha! Blood Sword Master, stop! A hearty laughter came from the void behind him. Jian Wushuang immediately stopped and turned to look at the void behind him. He immediately saw Xue Kong, the towering man who was more than 3 meters tall. Xue Kong did not conceal his aura, nor did he intend to sneak up on Jian Wushuang. He just swaggered in front of Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang immediately recognized him. Xue Kong Master, what's the matter? Jian Wushuang asked with a smile. Ha! Blood Sword Master. To be honest, I just heard about you from the Red Nethermaster. I also know that you've made the Red Nethermaster suffer a great loss. That's why I came here, Xue Kong said frankly. You heard about it from Red Nethermaster? Jian Wushuang nodded slightly. Then he smiled and said, I heard that you have a good relationship with Red Nethermaster. Are you here to help Red Nethermaster get back at him? No, don't misunderstand. Xue Kong waved his hand. It's true that I have a good relationship with Red Nethermaster. However, he came to you on his own initiative. Even if he was killed by you, he deserved it. I want to help him. As for why I came here, I just wanted to have a fight with you after I heard about your strength from Red Nethermaster. Jian Wushuang was not surprised by Xue Kong's reply. Jian Wushuang had already guessed the reason for his visit the moment he saw Xue Kong Master. He had read Xue Kong Master's information and knew that Xue Kong Master was a true battle maniac. He was a so-called battle maniac. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 3552. A battle maniac who liked to fight immediately chased after him after hearing about him from the Red Nethermaster. Of course, his purpose was to fight with him. Blood Sword Master, Red Nether has a high opinion of you. Don't let me down, said Xue Kong. I'll try my best, Jian Wushuang said with a faint smile. Then his figure flashed. He appeared directly in front of Xue Kong. With the Blood Mountain sword in hand, he slashed out with his sword. A brilliant blood-red sword light filled the air. This blood-red sword light carried an extremely violent aura. It was the Peerless Sword Manual, Shi Xiang. Not bad. It's indeed an advanced level 6 secret skill. Seeing Jian Wushuang's swordsmanship, Xue Kong was delighted. With a flip of his hand, a black stone stick appeared in his hand. This black stone stick looked ordinary, but the aura it emitted was extremely shocking. It was also a powerful advanced universe supreme treasure. With the stone stick in his hand, Xue Kong waved it. This swing seemed simple and did not have any fancy moves, but it was such a simple and direct stick skill, and it gave people a feeling of being unstoppable. The long stick hit the Blood Mountain sword, and the explosive power suddenly burst out. Jian Wushuang's body slightly shook, and then he immediately retreated. Blood Sword Master, I heard from Red Nether Master that you have a high-level offensive magic weapon. Take it out and don't hide it, said Xue Kong. As you wish. Jian Wushuang did not hesitate and immediately changed to the Absolute Shadow Divine Sword. With the Absolute Shadow Divine Sword in hand, the power of Jian Wushuang's swordsmanship instantly increased to a whole new level. Jian Wushuang's figure turned into a ghost and flashed out like lightning. In the blink of an eye, he was engaged in a fierce battle with Xue Kong, and his swordsmanship was completely unleashed. Xue Kong, on the other hand, had always looked relaxed and comfortable. He had only casually attacked Jian Wushuang's swordsmanship, but he had completely blocked it. It even caused a certain impact on Jian Wushuang's power. After dozens of collisions, Jian Wushuang's expression had become serious. Just as the information said, this Xue Kong master is much stronger than the Red Nether Master I met before, Jian Wushuang thought to himself. The Red Nether Master was only at an ordinary level among the principal's masters of the preliminary 6 realms. The Xue Kong master was also a principal's master of the preliminary 6 realms, but his strength, he was definitely very strong among principal's masters in the 6th realm. He was probably not far away from the advanced 6th realm. Jian Wushuang could slightly suppress the Red Nether Master when he used his ultimate shadow sword in the battle with the Red Nether Master. But now he also used his ultimate shadow sword and displayed the strongest power other than the heaven-cleaving skill. In the end, Xue Kong Master was still able to resist his sword skill. Judging from Xue Kong Master's relaxed look, it was obvious that he had not used all of his strength. Blood Sword Master, I heard from Red Nether Master that you have also created an absolute art at the peak of stage 6. Can you show it to me? Xue Kong Master said with a smile. Jian Wushuang narrowed his eyes and said in a cold voice, In that case, you'd better watch carefully. Jian Wushuang did not hesitate at all. A powerful destructive will swept out. Jian Wushuang also slashed out with his shadow-exterminating divine sword, a terrifying sword light that covered the heaven and earth, with a monstrous fighting will that would not give up, directly slashed toward Xue Kong. Seeing Jian Wushuang's swordsmanship, Xue Kong's eyes flashed with a bright light. Haha, this is interesting. Xue Kong was still laughing, and his aura suddenly soared. A layer of black air current swept up from his body. This black air current was formed after the power of the destruction principles had materialized. Xue Kong was a principles master who had completely mastered the destruction principles. Moreover, his level of application and understanding of the destruction principles was frighteningly high. The black airflow completely covered the long staff in his hand. The long staff shook slightly and then smashed out with a rumble. Although this staff was only at the advanced stage of the 6th rank, the power of the staff shadow was definitely not weaker than Jian Wushuang's swordsmanship. Visit Re-Adel, me for extra chapters. The whole world seemed to be about to explode. The air wave formed by the crazy collision of the 2 attacks swept up crazily and lifted up a large number of gravel below. However, at this moment, a sudden change occurred. A sudden angry roar suddenly sounded in the world. On the black ground below, one of the ground directly caved in. Soon after, a huge creature climbed out from the ground. This huge creature was over 5 meters tall. Its entire body was as black as ink, and its body was strange and strange. Its body was about the same size as its head, and on its huge head, which proved that it was incomparably huge, it had 3 eyes and a big bloody mouth, but it did not have a nose. It also had thick arms for arms, and on one of its arms was a giant silver axe. Such a monster suddenly emerged from the ground, and as soon as it appeared, a hair-raising violent aura filled the air. Seeing this huge monster suddenly emerge from the ground, Jian Wushuang's expression changed drastically. Oh no, it's a monster, a 9-curve monster unique to the 9 Twists Demon Cave. Xue Kong was also shocked. He could no longer care about the outcome of the battle with Jian Wushuang and immediately retreated. However, the monster emerged from the ground below them, and it happened to be the closest to Xue Kong. As soon as it appeared, the monster immediately pounced toward Xue Kong. Although the monster was big, its speed was shockingly fast. It was even faster than the speed of an ordinary expert of the 6th realm. It pounced in front of Xue Kong almost instantly. At the same time, the 4 arms also returned to Xue Kong. Xue Kong was extremely shocked and furious. He immediately swung the stone rod in his hand and smashed it at the monster. This hit blocked 3 of the monster's arms, but there was still the best arm that could not block it. The last arm happened to be the one holding the giant silver axe. The giant silver axe swung out from the monster's hand. Without any hindrance, it directly hit Xue Kong's body. Voila! The true treasure armor on Xue Kong's body was slashed with an extremely long white mark, and sparks flew in all directions. Fortunately, he was protected by the true treasure armor, and the monster did not know how to use any axe techniques. It only relied on brute force, so the axe did not cause much damage to him. Without the true treasure armor, or the treasure armor level is not high enough, cannot withstand this power, Blood Empty this time will definitely be seriously injured. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 3553. Silver Axe, let's go! Xue Kong immediately turned around and fled after taking the blow from the monster's axe. Let's go! Jian Wushuang also chose to flee without any hesitation. The monster initially wanted to chase after him, but it stopped after a short distance. It could not be helped. Although the monster was fast, its intelligence was very low. Both Jian Wushuang and Xue Kong could easily shake it off. Not long after, Jian Wushuang stopped in a void not far away. The Xue Kong master was fleeing in the same direction as him, so they gathered together again. Is that the monster from the 9 Twists Demon Cave? It's really terrifying. In terms of strength, the monster just now is not weaker than an ordinary expert of the 6th realm, Jian Wushuang thought. Bloodsword Master, did you see it? Xue Kong suddenly looked over. Of course I saw it. Jian Wushuang narrowed his eyes. That monster was holding an axe, and it seems to be of a very high level. Of course it was high. The axe just now hit me. I felt it very clearly, although my true treasure armor is only at the level of an elementary universe true treasure. It's the best among the elementary universe true treasure armors. Normally, even if an advanced universe true treasure hit my true treasure armor, my armor could at least resist 80 to 90% of its power. But when the monster's axe hit me just now, my true treasure armor could barely resist 50% of its power. What does that mean? Xue Kong Master looked a little excited. That means the axe in the monster's hand is a top-tier universe true treasure. Jian Wushuang said with a straight face, yes, it's a top-tier universe true treasure. Xue Kong's eyes started to flicker. Universe true treasures were divided into elementary, advanced, top-tier, peak, and supreme true treasures. Among them, peak true treasures and aspiring supreme true treasures were treasures that even ruler realm experts coveted. Some of them did not even have supreme true treasures in their hands. Top-tier universe true treasures were not as valuable as pinnacle true treasures and supreme true treasures, but they were enough to make countless principals masters go crazy over them. In the true treasury of Star Palace, top-tier universe true treasures could only be exchanged for 100 contribution points. Top-tier universe true treasures, even the most ordinary attack weapons, could be exchanged for more than 2,000 contribution points. It was 20 times higher than an advanced universe true treasure. One could imagine how powerful a top-tier true treasure was. There were not many true treasures in the Star Palace's true treasure vault, but Jian Wushuang had seen them before. There were only a few top-tier true treasures, but now a top-tier true treasure appeared in front of Jian Wushuang. Sure enough, the opportunities and true treasures in the depths of Devil Smoke Valley cannot be compared with those in the outer regions. It's rare to find an advanced true treasure in the outer regions, but now, in the 9 Twists Demon Cave, I have found a top-tier true treasure so quickly, Jian Wushuang muttered. Both he and Shui Kong Master were eager to see the silver axe in the monster's hand. Bloodsword Master, you're from Star Palace, right? Shui Kong suddenly asked. Yes. Jian Wushuang nodded. That's a pity, Shui Kong said with a smile. Pity? What do you mean? Jian Wushuang frowned. Bloodsword Master, you were there just now and saw the monster attack with your own eyes. You should know the strength of the monster. It's definitely at the high level of the 6 realms. In addition, it has a top-tier universe true treasure, so its battle strength will be stronger. To kill the monster, it's impossible for an expert at the peak of the 6 realms to get the axe from it, Shui Kong said. Yes, it is indeed possible to kill the monster by an expert at the pinnacle of the 6th realm or above, Jian Wushuang agreed. As far as I know, although your Star Palace has experts at the pinnacle of the 6th realm, there are none who are currently roaming in the 9 Twists Demon Cave. In other words, even if you send a message to Star Palace now, Star Palace can't send an expert to kill the monster in a short period of time. Am I right? Shui Kong said with a smile. That's right. Jian Wushuang nodded. That's right. The experts from your Star Palace can arrive in time. There happens to be an expert at the pinnacle of the 6th realm in my force. I'll send a message to him now. He'll arrive here soon. Shui Kong smiled at Jian Wushuang. I see. Jian Wushuang smiled. He understood what Shui Kong meant and why he said he felt a little regretful. Apparently, Shui Kong thought that he could not summon an expert at the pinnacle of the 6th realm to kill the monster in a short time, so he could not get the axe, which was a top-tier universe supreme treasure. However, Shui Kong could summon an expert at the pinnacle of the 6th realm in a short time. Although both of them saw the monster and the axe in the monster's hand at the same time, if Jian Wushuang could not summon an expert to kill the monster in time, Shui Kong could naturally get the axe. Shui Kong Master, do you mean that whoever kills your monster first will get the axe? Jian Wushuang asked. Yes. Shui Kong nodded. Bloodsword Master, as long as you can get help from someone at the pinnacle of the 6th realm in a short period of time, you will be able to get the axe. Unfortunately, Shui Kong did not finish his words. That's good. As for the principal's master at the pinnacle of the 6th realm, I have a way to invite him, Jian Wushuang said with a smile. Oh. Shui Kong frowned with a hint of surprise in his eyes. In his opinion, Jian Wushuang should not be able to invite an expert at the pinnacle of the 6th realm from Star Palace in a short period of time. Could it be that he can invite an expert outside of Star Palace? Shui Kong's heart sank. Shui Kong Master, I'll take my leave first. Jian Wushuang smiled slightly and turned around to fly in the direction of the monster. Seeing Jian Wushuang leave so confidently, Shui Kong felt even more uneasy. I'd like to see what Shui Kong Master is up to. Shui Kong frowned and followed him. Jian Wushuang had certainly noticed the existence of Shui Kong Master behind him, but he did not care. Instead, he went back the way he came. Soon, he returned to the place where he had met the monster. From afar, Jian Wushuang saw the black monster sitting cross-legged on the black ground in front of him. Fortunately, the monster has not returned to the ground in such a short time. Seeing that the monster was still there, Jian Wushuang also let out a sigh of relief. If the monster had returned to the ground, it would have been a lot more difficult for Jian Wushuang to find it. However, it was still on the ground and right under his nose. There was a great chance for Jian Wushuang to kill it. Chapter 3554. Killing the monster. Seeing that the monster had not returned to the ground, Jian Wushuang was ready to move. He flashed and used the shadowless escape art to approach the monster. The Blood Sword Master is approaching it. What is he trying to do? The Shui Kong Master was in the void far away. Seeing Jian Wushuang's action, his expression became even more strange. Is he planning to kill the monster by himself? Are you kidding me? With the monster's strength, it's impossible to kill it without the battle strength of the pinnacle of the sixth realm. Or does the Blood Sword Master have some kind of trump card that he can use to kill the monster? The Shui Kong Master murmured while he stared at Jian Wushuang attentively. Although Jian Wushuang had used the shadowless escape art, Shui Kong could still sense his presence with his strength. He could clearly see that Jian Wushuang had used the shadowless escape art to quietly approach the monster. Soon, Jian Wushuang arrived near the monster, but the monster did not notice him at all. After all, although the monster had the battle strength equivalent to an advanced sixth realm expert, its soul strength was not as strong as that of the principal's master of the sixth realm of the void. Moreover, because the monster's intelligence was too low, it had almost no sense of danger. Is he going to make a move? Shui Kong frowned slightly. The next moment, his pupils suddenly shrank. He's going to make a move. Sure enough, Jian Wushuang, who was already close to the monster, had already made a move with lightning speed. Moreover, he appeared directly beside the monster and then displayed his swordsmanship. Swish! A blood shadow, like a blood-red flash, pierced toward the eye in the center of the monster's head with a shocking piercing force. The third move of the bloody sword skill. When Jian Wushuang chose to attack, he activated his life divine power and the heaven-cleaving skill. After using the heaven-cleaving skill, the power of the sword suddenly rose to a whole new level. The key was to attack suddenly. The monster did not notice it at all, but when it noticed it, the blood-red flash was less than 2 meters away from his head. At such a close distance, the monster could not even dodge. Chi! The blood-red flash directly pierced through the big eye in the center of the monster and came out from the other side of the head. Roar! With a hysterical roar, the monster instantly burst into action. 2 of its 4 thick arms held Jian Wushuang's absolute shadow divine sword, while the other 2 palms violently attacked Jian Wushuang. One of the 2 arms was holding onto the giant silver axe. Humph! Jian Wushuang snorted and twisted his wrist in a strange way. A shocking sword essence swept out, and the absolute shadow sword rolled up, forming a wave of killing power that further damaged the monster's head. It also directly shook off the 2 arms that the monster was holding onto the absolute shadow divine sword. Then, Jian Wushuang exerted more strength with his right hand. He used the heaven-cleaving skill again, instantly bringing with it the power of an expert at the pinnacle of the sixth realm. The sword directly cut through the monster, and the sound of the blade entering the body rang out. The sword was as sharp as the Blood Mountain sword. Now that Jian Wushuang was using his full strength, the sword directly cut open the monster's head and continued to cut out. It actually cut off one of the monster's arms. After doing all this, Jian Wushuang immediately retreated and used the shadowless escape art again. Roar! Although the monster's head was open and looked terrible, its life was not completely cut off. Instead, it was still roaring crazily, trying to find Jian Wushuang's location. However, It could not find Jian Wushuang at all, so it could only get angry blindly. Jian Wushuang hid in the surrounding void and looked at the furious monster. It's a pity that the monster's life core is not on its head. It seems to be in its heart, Jian Wushuang murmured. Jian Wushuang had read the information of these monsters and knew how special they were. The monsters in the Nine Twists Demon Cave did not have immortal bodies like human cultivators. To be exact, they had immortal bodies, but the prerequisite was that their life cores were still there. The life cores were the core of these monsters and the source of all power. As long as the life cores were not broken, the monsters could regenerate even if their heads exploded and their bodies collapsed. However, as long as the life cores were broken, the monsters would still die even if there were no scars on their faces. However, because the life core was too important, these monsters protected their life cores very well. Under normal circumstances, these monsters would only put their life cores in two places, one in the middle of the head. The other place was where the heart was. Jian Wushuang did not know where the monster put its life core, so he tried to attack the monsters head first, relying on the shadowless escape skill and the bloody sword skill. In addition to the supreme power of his heaven-cleaving skill, he directly blew away the monster's head, but he failed to kill it. Since the life core was not in the monster's head, it had to be in its heart. After understanding this, Jian Wushuang attacked again. It had to be said that these monster experts were true, but they were still far inferior to cultivators in many aspects, except for the strength of a direct battle. For example, in terms of soul power, these monsters had almost no soul power at all. They relied on the simplest perception ability. However, they were very passive when they met a cultivator like Jian Wushuang, who had the ability to secretly think and move. Now, the monster was in a rage because of Jian Wushuang's sneak attack, but it could not find Jian Wushuang at all, so it had nowhere to vent its anger. Until Jian Wushuang attacked again, whoosh. The sword light swept out, and the heaven-cleaving skill was used again, slashing toward the monster from the side. This time, the monster was on guard and reacted in an instant. The arm holding the giant silver axe slashed out angrily. It did not use any axe skill, but simply relied on its own brute force. Jian Wushuang, who had used the heaven-cleaving skill, was definitely stronger than the monster. Bang! A low sound of collision was heard. The giant silver axe was thrown away, and the monster was also sent flying. I won't stop until I die. Jian Wushuang's eyes were cold, and a shocking destructive will suddenly rose up. He slashed the absolute shadow divine sword directly at the monster's chest, which was where its heart was. With a sense of hatred, he slashed at the monster's chest. The shocking power transmitted into the monster's body and instantly shattered its life nucleus. Chapter 3555. Shocking in just a split second, the monster was killed by Jian Wushuang. Of course, this was normal. After all, Jian Wushuang's battle strength was definitely at the peak of the sixth void realm after using the heaven-cleaving skill. In addition, he also had the shadowless escape skill, so he could make a sudden attack. Moreover, the monster had been severely injured by him from the beginning, and its strength had been greatly reduced. Under such circumstances, it was naturally very easy for Jian Wushuang to kill it. After killing the monster, Jian Wushuang went directly to the silver axe and picked it up. It really is a top-tier universe supreme treasure. The moment Jian Wushuang held the silver axe, he had already felt the power of the silver axe. Unfortunately, he did not use the axe as a weapon. When the silver axe fell into his hands, he could only use it to exchange for contribution points, and then go to the Star Palace's Supreme Treasure Vault to exchange for other supreme treasures. Moreover, he had just arrived at the core area of Devil Smoke Valley, so it was impossible for him to immediately go back and exchange it for contribution points. The Shuekong Master must have seen me kill this monster. It seems that I have to think of a way to deal with him. Jian Wushuang smiled and said, "Well, he's already here." Jian Wushuang looked ahead and saw that the Shui Kong master had come. However, when the Shui Kong master appeared in front of Jian Wushuang, he looked shocked. It was just as Jian Wushuang had said. He had seen Jian Wushuang kill the monster the whole time. It was because of him that he was shocked and found it unbelievable. When he saw Jian Wushuang choose to attack the monster directly, he wondered if Jian Wushuang was dizzy and thought that he could kill the monster with his own strength. However, when he saw Jian Wushuang seriously injure the monster, he was immediately shocked. Later, when he saw Jian Wushuang attack again and easily kill the monster, he was completely stunned. He was indeed stunned. He had never expected that Jian Wushuang, who seemed to have used all of his strength when he fought with him, could only fight with him. He was even slightly weaker than Jian Wushuang. He had actually killed the monster alone, which could rival an advanced expert of the sixth realm. Now, he appeared in front of Jian Wushuang again. Apart from being shocked, he also had mixed feelings. "Blood Sword Master, did you hide your strength when you fought with me?" Shui Kong asked. "Not exactly. I did use my strongest strength when I fought with you, but I didn't use some of my trump cards. I was able to kill this monster because I used this trump card," Jian Wushuang said. He did not lie. The heaven-cleaving skill was indeed his trump card. Under normal circumstances, he did not intend to use this trump card. Trump card? Shui Kong Master still looked at Jian Wushuang deeply. He could see that when Jian Wushuang killed the monster, he did indeed burst out with the combat strength of the pinnacle of the sixth realm. And for a person whose combat strength was only in the initial stage of the sixth realm to burst out with the combat strength of the peak of the path, this trump card was really too strong. Shui Kong Master, although you and I discovered the axe at the same time, according to what you said before, whoever kills the monster first and gets the axe will get the axe. Now the axe is mine, Jian Wushuang said with a smile. Of course. You have such a powerful trump card. No matter how much I think about the axe, I don't have the ability. It's a pity that the expert I invited came here for nothing. Shui Kong Master's expression had softened. Knowing that it was impossible to get the axe from Jian Wushuang again, the Shui Kong Master was relieved. Shui Kong Master, there's one more thing I need your help with, Jian Wushuang suddenly said. Help? Shui Kong looked at Jian Wushuang strangely. It's like this. Until now, not many people know about my trump card, but now that you know it, I want you to keep it for me. After all, it's best not to let too many people know about my trump card. I also don't want others to know about my axe, which is a top-tier universe supreme treasure. Jian Wushuang said, I understand. I can promise you that I won't tell anyone about this, but I'll still tell the force behind me about it, Shui Kong Master said. Jian Wushuang could not help but be speechless. If Shui Kong Master told the force behind him about his trump card, it would be no different from directly revealing it. Of course, I can report it later. Now, it'll only remind the people who have a certain relationship with me and are adventuring in the depths of Devil's Smoke Valley. How about it? Shui Kong Master said. Thank you. Jian Wushuang immediately smiled. It was only to tell a limited number of people. If it was not completely publicized, Jian Wushuang could still accept it. To be honest, although the Shui Kong Master saw him kill the monster with his heaven-cleaving skill, he did not know how many times he could use this trump card because Jian Wushuang killed the monster so quickly, or how long he could use it. At present, the Shui Kong Master probably only knew that he could release his battle strength at the pinnacle of the sixth realm in a short time, but he did not know how long it would take. Shui Kong Master, goodbye, Jian Wushuang said, and left. This time, the Shui Kong Master did not follow him. He looked at Jian Wushuang's back and sighed. Then he left. Soon, Shue-Kong Master returned to the place where he had met Red Nether Master. Shue-Kong, are you going to kill Bloodsword Master? Red Nether Master immediately came up to him. Yes. Shue-Kong Master nodded. What's the result? Although Bloodsword Master is not weak, he's still weaker than you, right? Red Nether Master said. I can't say much about this, because something unexpected happened midway. Shue-Kong Master said. What happened? Red Nether Master asked. We encountered a monster on the way to battle, Shue-Kong Master said. And then Red Nether Master looked at Shue-Kong Master. And then Shue-Kong Master hesitated for a while, but he still didn't tell him what had happened. However, he still said, I promised Bloodsword Master. There are some things that I can't tell him directly. However, you and I have some friendship. Let me remind you that if you meet Bloodsword Master alone in the future, you should try to avoid him. This Bloodsword Master is not as simple as you think. Oh, Shue-Kong Master was surprised. Bloodsword Master was not as simple as he thought. He even said that he would try to avoid him if he met him alone in the future. What exactly happened when Shue-Kong met Bloodsword Master? Red Nether Master could not figure it out, but Shue-Kong Master did not say much and soon left. Chapter 3556. Shi Yen and Red Eye, after obtaining the axe, which was a top-tier universe supreme treasure, from the monster, Jian Wushuang continued to explore the 9 Twists Demon Cave alone. 30 years passed in a flash. In the 9 Twists Demon Cave, there was an endless pile of black stones. Bang! A loud bang shook the sky, and a powerful force swept across, shattering the rocks into pieces. So, an extremely wretched figure appeared from within that powerful force. This person was dressed in a black robe, and his face was thin. He had a pair of mustaches. His body trembled as he looked at the 2 people in front of him, and he roared angrily, Shi Yen Master, Red Eye Master, your Northern Sea Palace is really going too far. Going too far? Said a middle-aged man, wearing a fiery red armor. His body was also surging with raging flames, and he looked like a flame war god. There was a sneer on the corner of the middle-aged man's mouth. To think that you are a great being who has been adventuring in this universe battlefield for so many years. Why are you still so naive when you speak? In this world, the strong prey on the weak. Whoever has the biggest fist is the truth. Hand over your senior universe true treasure armor honestly. This way, Red Eye, and I can let you live. Otherwise, the middle-aged man who looked like Flame War God, Shi Yen Master, had not finished his words, but the killing intent in his eyes had already revealed his intentions. Hand it over. If I join hands with Stone Hatred, you won't even be able to escape. Red Eye Master, a beautiful woman wearing a purplish-red robe and with a pair of strange red eyes, said, under the combined threat of the 2. Even though Hung-Yi Master was extremely unwilling, he still took out his high-level universe armor and threw it at Shi Yen Master. Then he immediately turned and fled. Seeing Hung-Yi Master hand over his true treasure armor, Shi Yen Master and Red Eye Master had no intention of chasing after him. At least he is tactful. Otherwise, he would have died here. Red Eye Master smiled coldly. If it is possible not to kill him, then it is better not to kill him, Shi Yen Master said with a serious expression. Even though with our powers, it would be easy for us to kill him, but by doing so, we can be considered to have offended the faction behind him. If it was just this one time, then it would have been fine. North Sea Palace, where we are, is definitely one of the top 3 great factions in this territory. There is no need to care at all. But the most important thing is that we will continue to do so. If we kill them all, we will make too many enemies and bring trouble to the North Sea Palace. After all, we are not those lone wolves who can kill at will. They are not afraid of wearing shoes and can do whatever they want, but we can't. In the 3 great cosmic battlefields of this territory, although there were many experts who liked to kill, killing everyone they saw just to plunder the treasures of the other party, but such experts, almost all of them were independent experts who did not have anything to worry about. Only such experts did not need to worry about anything. However, some experts who came from different astral worlds and different forces would not recklessly slaughter experts when they were roaming in the 3 great battlefields, because they would crazily slaughter others. The great beings from the forces behind others would also slaughter their own people crazily. In this way, both sides could only fight to the death, which was what no force wanted to see. Therefore, those great beings from different astral worlds and different forces would obey some restrictions when adventuring in the 3 great universe battlefields. Except for fighting for the chance of a true treasure, there was no definite reason. It was not easy for them to kill each other. For example, right now, Shi Yen Master and Red Eye Master had the power to kill Hung E Master, but they did not choose to kill him. They only forced him to hand over his senior true treasure armor. Although we can't kill him directly and take away all the treasures on his body, we can force him to hand over his most precious treasures on his own accord. That will be enough for us to make quite a fortune, said Shi Yen Master. That's true. With our strength, we might not dare to say anything else, but in this 9 Twists Demon Cave, we should be able to do whatever we want. Other than those experts at the pinnacle of the 6th realm that we can't do anything to, the other principal's masters below the 6th realm can only obediently hand over their strongest treasures when they encounter the 2 of us. Red Eye Master smiled strangely. Don't be happy too early. The 2 of us are working together to explore this place and force the experts we meet to hand over their strongest treasures. Although we won't encounter any obstacles in the beginning, as time passes, when this news spreads out and causes the experts of the 9 Twists Demon Cave to be on guard, our chances of succeeding will be greatly reduced. Therefore, we must make the most of our time. Before this news spreads out completely, we must find more experts and force them to hand over their most precious treasures. Shi Yen Master said, in this territory, although the news of the various astral worlds and various powers were extremely well informed, after all, there were simply too many powers in this territory's astral world. Moreover, most of these astral worlds and powers had their own thoughts. Even if they obtained some news, they would not easily share it. Hence, the speed of the news flow was not too fast. For example, the Shi Yen Master and the Red Eye Master were wantonly searching for prey in the 9 Twists Demon Cave. Even though they had already succeeded a few times, this news was still not widely known. Among the experts who were adventuring in the 9 Twists Demon Cave, most of them did not know about this matter and were not on guard. This period of time was the best time for them to hunt. If the news spread and the experts in the 9 Twists Demon Cave became wary of the 2 of them, their chances of success would be greatly reduced. As the 2 of them were talking, Red Eye Master's expression suddenly changed. There's a new prey, Red Eye Master said. Oh, who is it? Shi Yen Master immediately looked over. Of the 2 of them, Shi Yen Master specialized in direct combat, and his strength was extremely tyrannical. He had already reached the pinnacle of the 6th realm. As for Red Eye Master, although her combat strength was not strong, she had only barely reached the high level of the 6th realm. However, what Red Eye Master specialized in the most was her soul power. Her soul attack technique was incomparably tyrannical. Even experts at the pinnacle of the 6th realm would not dare to underestimate her soul attack. Her attainments in the soul aspect were so high that her soul perception ability was naturally terrifyingly strong. At the very least, she was stronger than the Shi Yen Master. Just like now, The Shuryen Master did not sense the existence of other experts in the surroundings, but the Red-Eye Master did. Chapter 3557. The terrifying duo, this aura is strange, and he looks like Bloodsword Master, Red-Eye Master said. Bloodsword Master? Shuryen Master raised his eyebrows. Jian Wushuang had been in the Nine Twists Demon Cave for 30 years. During this time, he had met some experts and interacted with them. Naturally, the news of his arrival spread. If it's really Bloodsword Master, it seems that we'll have something to gain, Shuryen Master said with a smile. Red-Eye Master also smiled. It said that although Bloodsword Master only has the battle strength of the initial stage of the Sixth Realm, his life-saving ability is quite good. This life-saving ability mainly comes from the fact that he has a high-level space-time type true treasure, which is likely to be an advanced space-time type universe true treasure. A high-level space-time type universe true treasure. Although I'm also good at space-time principles, I don't have a space-time type true treasure of this level either. There was a glimmer of light in Shuryen Master's eyes. If that's the case, then what are we waiting for? Let's hurry over and force him to hand over the space-time type true treasure, said Red-Eye Master. Of course, but let's make a deal first. His space-time type true treasure will belong to me in the end, said Shuryen Master. No problem. Red-Eye Master obviously did not care so much. The two immediately rushed toward Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang was still wandering around the Nine Twists Demon Cave alone, except for the first encounter with the monster and the axe, which was a top-tier supreme treasure. He had not encountered any other opportunities or treasures in the past 30 years. As for the other experts, they had dealt with some people, but they did not fight for any supreme treasures or opportunities, nor did they use their full strength to fight with others. Suddenly, buzz! The surrounding void suddenly shook, and a powerful space-time power instantly covered the surrounding void. Space-time imprisonment. Jian Wushuang's face changed. One of his life-saving skills, space-time teleportation, ignored the flow of space-time. Ordinary space-time seals were useless against him, but once he used space-time imprisonment, he could not use this life-saving skill again. The fact that the other party directly used space-time imprisonment showed that he had a very good understanding of space-time principles. Most importantly, the other party came with bad intentions. Whoosh! Whoosh! Two figures suddenly appeared in front of Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang immediately recognized the two figures. So, you are the Shuryen Master and the Red-Eye Master from the North Sea Palace. What are you doing here? Jian Wushuang looked at the two people in front of him calmly. Bloodsword Master, you must have sensed that the space-time around you has been completely imprisoned. Don't you know our purpose? Shuryen Master looked at Jian Wushuang with interest. Jian Wushuang smiled and said, I don't think I've ever met you or provoked the North Sea Palace behind you. You've never provoked us, but that doesn't mean we can't take the initiative to provoke you. Shuryen Master sneered and said, Bloodsword Master, I can give you a chance. As long as you hand over your space-time, universe supreme treasure, we'll let you go. What do you think? You want my treasure? Jian Wushuang raised his eyebrows. He had long guessed the purpose of these two people. However, he did not expect that they would join hands to deal with him directly. Both Shuryen Master and Red-Eye Master were very famous in the universe battlefield. They were usually very difficult to deal with, let alone when they joined hands. It's impossible for me to hand over the supreme treasure obediently. If you really have the ability, you can take it from me, Jian Wushuang said. Haha, how dare you? In that case, we won't be polite, Shuryen Master said in a cold voice. Red-Eye, do it. Let him suffer a little first. When he knows how powerful he is, he will naturally behave himself. Red Eye Master nodded slightly and then suddenly raised her head. As soon as she raised her head, her strange red eyes looked straight at Jian Wushuang and made eye contact with him at the first moment. In an instant, the scene in front of Jian Wushuang changed. "Husband." A soft voice rang in Jian Wushuang's ears. A white-clothed woman stood in front of him. The moment she turned around, a peerless beauty that could topple cities and countries appeared in front of Jian Wushuang. This peerless beauty was very familiar to Jian Wushuang. It was his wife, Lung Wushuang. Not only her appearance and figure, but also her gaze and her aloof temperament were exactly the same as Lung Wushuang in his previous life. Jian Wushuang could hardly find any difference. "Husband, save me," Lung Wushuang said softly and extended her hand toward Jian Wushuang. Her beautiful and pitiful appearance made Jian Wushuang's body move involuntarily. He almost reached out to welcome her. However, Jian Wushuang immediately woke up. "Illusion! It's an illusion! It's so real and terrifying." The veins on Jian Wushuang's forehead bulged in an instant, and his willpower increased to the maximum. Break for me!" Jian Wushuang roared crazily. His willpower had reached the maximum, and the surrounding illusion and the beautiful white-clothed woman in front of him began to tremble violently. In just a moment, the illusion completely collapsed, and Jian Wushuang's consciousness returned to reality. However, as soon as he regained his consciousness, he immediately noticed that the Shuryen Master had appeared in front of him. His body was surging with flames, like a towering flame war god. The flame war god held a huge axe in his hand and was slashing at him fiercely. The shadow of the axe came down, and it created a huge sea of fire in the void. "Oh no!" Jian Wushuang's face changed. He had just escaped from the illusion, but he was immediately hit by the axe of Shuryen Master. He did not have time to use any swordsmanship to block it, so he could only put the absolute shadow sword in front of him. Clang! The huge axe with endless flames and astonishing power struck the body of the absolute shadow sword. After all, the absolute shadow sword was a divine sword that focused on sharp cuts. The body of the sword was very thin, so it was impacted by the force. The entire body of the sword caved in and continued to hit Jian Wushuang with the axe shadow. Boom! In an instant, Jian Wushuang fell to the ground like a meteorite and finally hit the black ground below. A huge pit immediately appeared. Jian Wushuang had been smashed into the bottom of the hole. But in the next moment, he rose to the sky again. Chapter 3558. Target, Red Eye, so powerful. Shuryen Master is definitely an expert at the pinnacle of the sixth realm. Even if I try my best to use the heaven-cleaving skill, I might not be his match. Besides, he has the help of Red Eye Master. Her illusion is also very difficult to deal with. Jian Wushuang narrowed his eyes slightly. It was normal for him to be no match for Shuryen Master. As for the Red Eye Master, if she was only good at soul attacks, Jian Wushuang would not take her seriously no matter how powerful her soul attacks were. However, the key was that the Red Eye Master was not only good at soul attacks, but also at all kinds of illusions. The illusions were so real that they allowed him to enter them silently. It would take him some time to crack them. During this time, Shuryen Master could attack him at will. With the two of them together, Jian Wushuang had no intention of fighting them at all. "Let's go." Jian Wushuang did not hesitate at all. After rising up from the pit, he immediately burst out of the void to the side. "Do you think you can escape?" Shuryen Master smiled coldly. In an instant, a wave of space-time power swept out. At the same time, the raging flames on his body turned into a sea of fire and spread to the surroundings. "This is Jian Wushuang's expression changed. He had already felt the space-time power binding him and the crazy suppression of the Sea of Fire, as expected of an expert from the North Sea Palace. His family background is really extravagant. Not only does he have a space-time type universe supreme treasure, but he also has a domain type universe supreme treasure. When the two are combined, the suppression and restriction on me are too great. Jian Wushuang was secretly shocked. He immediately took out the golden sky painting flag and used his time-space domain. Although his time-space domain had instantly canceled out the restriction of the time-space type true treasure, he could not affect the suppression of the domain type true treasure. He was still greatly suppressed by the domain. His speed was still greatly restricted. However, the speed of the two masters was not affected at all. They had already caught up with him, especially the Shi Yen master. As an expert at the pinnacle of the sixth realm, his speed was already faster than Jian Wushuang's. Now that he had caught up, it would not take long for him to catch up with Jian Wushuang. Shi Yen master, I don't have any enmity with you two. Why do you need to keep chasing me? Jian Wushuang said, "Haha, I've already said that as long as you hand over the space-time treasure, I'll let you go. But if you don't want to, then it's not my fault." Shi Yen master sneered. "It seems that there's no point in talking about it. In that case, let's fight." Jian Wushuang's eyes flashed with a sharp light. He had been frantically running forward, but at this moment he suddenly turned around. He was charging straight at Shi Yen master. "Haha, how dare you!" Shi Yen master laughed loudly. Jian Wushuang's eyes were as cold as ice. He did not appear directly in front of Shi Yen master. Instead, he appeared at the side of Shi Yen master. At the same time, he slashed out with his ultimate shadow sword. He still had not used his heaven-cleaving skill. He had only activated his life divine power, which was comparable to that of an elementary principle's master of the sixth realm. "You overestimate yourself." Shi Yen master looked down on him. His body was covered in flames, and the axe in his hand was like a shooting star as it smashed directly onto the absolute shadow divine sword. Clang! With a loud sound, the strength of the axe exploded, and Jian Wushuang was immediately sent flying into the void to the side. Unfortunately, he was sent flying in the direction where the Red-Eye Master was coming from. In other words, Jian Wushuang was able to close the distance between him and the Red-Eye Master. As a result, the moment he regained his balance, he went straight for the Red-Eye Master. His eyes suddenly burst with killing intent. "Ah!" The Red-Eye Master frowned, and a look of surprise flashed through her eyes. However, she was not afraid at all. Although she was not good at fighting head-on, she had to deal with an elementary level 6 realm principle's master head-on. It's pretty easy. Moreover, although Jian Wushuang closed the distance between them and attacked her in an instant, she still had time to react. The moment Jian Wushuang attacked her, her soul power burst out. "Soul blast!" The Red-Eye Master growled, showing no mercy. The majestic soul power formed an invisible wall in an instant and crashed directly into Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang could not dodge this silent soul attack, but he had never thought of dodging it. He just let the terrifying soul attack hit him directly. It was known that the Red-Eye Master was famous for her soul skills. Even experts at the pinnacle of the sixth realm would not dare to underestimate her soul attack. The soul attack was also one of her trump cards. Under normal circumstances, she could kill an expert of the sixth realm directly. However, when the soul blast hit Jian Wushuang, he only shook his body, but he did not stop at all. He continued to attack her. "What?" Red-Eye Master was shocked. She never expected that Blood Sword Master would be able to withstand her soul blast with all her strength without even stopping. "I will not rest until I die." Jian Wushuang's killing intent sword, the heaven-cleaving skill, which he had not used until now, completely exploded at this moment. An overwhelming destructive will rose up, carrying a sense of hatred that would not rest until death. In an instant, it turned into a brilliant purple sword light and slashed toward Red Eye Master. Oh no! The Red Eye Master's expression changed. A cyan long spear immediately appeared in her hand, and she faced the sword light. She had thought that although she was not good at fighting head-on, it would be relatively easy for her to deal with an ordinary principles master of the initial stage of the sixth realm. However, at the moment when his long spear collided with the sword light, she was completely stunned. How? How can it be so powerful? Red Eye Master was shocked. The sword light that Jian Wushuang displayed brought her a terrifying pressure that suffocated her. The power of the sword light was too strong. Almost in an instant, it shook away her long spear. Then, the sword light continued to slash at her divine body. Bang! Red Eye Master had the armor of an advanced universe true treasure, so the surface of her divine body was not damaged. However, a lot of the power still passed into her body and severely injured her. More than 30% of her godly power was annihilated at once. However, this was not the end. Chapter 3559. Severe injury to Red Eye Swish. Jian Wushuang's figure disappeared into thin air. When he reappeared, he was already behind Red Eye Master. At the same time, a brand new sword mark appeared on the supreme treasure armor on Red Eye Master's body. The Peerless Sword Manual was a moment of life and death. The Red Eye Master was a little confused. She had just been severely injured by Jian Wushuang's sword and lost more than 30% of her divine power. Before she could react, Jian Wushuang had slashed her again, and the power of this sword was still extraordinary. The Peerless Sword Manual, Ninth Heaven of Illusionary Sword. Jian Wushuang's killing intent sword. The shadow sword in his hand turned into purple lightning in an instant, and sword lights instantly enveloped the Red Eye Master. No! Shiyan, save me! The Red Eye Master screamed, hysterically. Not far away, Shiyan Master had just arrived when he saw Jian Wushuang rushing toward the Red Eye Master. However, he did not expect Jian Wushuang to be so fast and decisive. When he came to the side of the Red Eye Master, Jian Wushuang had already slashed out 5 times with his 9th Firmament Illusionary Sword. Get lost! Shiyan Master roared, and the huge axe surrounded by raging fire rushed toward Jian Wushuang. The terrifying aura completely suppressed Jian Wushuang, making it impossible for him to strike out with the remaining 4 strikes. Retreat! Jian Wushuang pushed back without hesitation and dodged Shiyan Master's strike. Then Jian Wushuang glanced at Shiyan Master and sighed softly. It's a pity that I didn't kill her directly, but it's time to teach them a lesson. It's time to leave. Jian Wushuang did not linger and turned to leave. Due to the concern for Red Eye Master, Shiyan Master did not chase after him. She could only watch as Jian Wushuang disappeared from his sight. Red Eye, are you okay? Shiyan Master asked. At this moment, Red Eye Master still looked fearful. She only let out a long sigh after Jian Wushuang had completely left. I lost nearly 70% of my divine power. Fortunately, you came in time. Otherwise, I would have been killed by Blood Sword Master. She was telling the truth. She did not want to fight head-on. Faced with Jian Wushuang's terrifying swordsmanship, she was helpless and could only take the beating passively. The key point was that Jian Wushuang's strength had been too terrifying. In just a moment, he had destroyed nearly 70% of her divine power. If Stone Loathe Master had been a little slower, her life would have been in danger. What happened to Blood Sword Master? Shiyan Master asked. I don't know. It is said that his battle strength is only at the initial stage of the sixth realm, because he knows a special escape technique and has a time-space type true treasure. His life-saving ability is a little stronger. But when he attacked me just now, his strength was definitely at the pinnacle of the sixth realm. Red Eye Master's eyes were cold. There's another point. He was able to withstand my soul attack without being affected at all. How is that possible? Sure, Yen Master frowned. Even I don't dare to ignore your soul attack, especially your soul attack. It's one of your killing moves, and I have to go all out to deal with it. How can he not be affected at all? I don't know, Red Eye Master said. But there is one possibility. He has a soul defense true treasure, and to completely ignore my soul attack, a normal soul defense true treasure can't do it. At the very least, it has to be a top-tier universe true treasure, or even a top-tier universe true treasure. A top-tier soul defense true treasure, or a top-tier universe true treasure. Sure, Yen Master widened his eyes. In the universe true treasures had different values due to their different uses. True treasure armors were much more valuable than ordinary attack true treasures, and domain type and space-time type valuables of the same level were naturally more valuable than true treasure armors. As for soul type true treasures, they were far more valuable than true treasure armors. A soul-defending universe true treasure at the top-tier level would not be less valuable than a top-tier universe true treasure. If it was a top-tier soul-defending universe true treasure, its value would be even more shocking, and it would definitely attract countless great beings to fight over it. It seems that we have all underestimated this blood sword master, Shi Yen Master said with a serious expression. Although it is rumored that he only has the power of a low-level 6-level true treasure, it is very clear that he has hidden quite a bit of his power, or rather, he has hidden some trump cards. At the very least, he has the power of a peak 6-level true treasure within a short period of time. In addition, he has a soul defense true treasure that is at least a top-tier true treasure. Therefore, he did not choose to continue fleeing just now. Instead, he directly turned around and attacked us. If I'm not wrong, he must have intentionally fought with me before. Moreover, he had deliberately found the right spot. After he collided with me, he used the rebound force to get close to you at the fastest speed. After that, he instantly unleashed his trump card and attacked you. He had guessed that your soul attack would not be of much use to him. However, as long as he got close to you and instantly unleashed his strongest strength, he would have a chance to kill you. Just as he expected, he severely injured you. Well, it seems that Blood Sword Master has hidden himself well. Red Eye Master narrowed his eyes slightly. They had already determined that Jian Wushuang had hidden his strength or means. Moreover, they also believed that Jian Wushuang must have a soul defense true treasure above superior grade. At the same time, they also understood that Jian Wushuang's attack just now was deliberately planned and calculated. His purpose was probably to kill the Red Eye Master. Even if he could not kill him, he could at least severely injure the Red Eye Master. It could be considered as venting his anger. As for Shi Yen Master, Jian Wushuang did not have any thoughts about it. A cunning guy. I almost fell and injured him again. The Red Eye Master's eyes were cold, and he looked like he was gnashing his teeth. Red Eye, don't worry. We won't let today's matter go, Shi Yen Master said. Besides, this Blood Sword Master doesn't only have a high-level space-time universe that I need, but he also has a soul defense true treasure at the lowest level, which is at the top-tier level. With these two precious true treasures, it's worth our North Sea Palace taking action. You mean, Red Eye Master immediately looked at Shi Yen Master. Shi Yen Master smiled coldly. I will report this matter and our speculations. After that, North Sea Palace will deal with him and seize his true treasure. We just need to wait for the news. Okay. Red Eye Master nodded slightly. Chapter 3560. Unexplored area. Jian Wushuang stopped in the Nine Twists Demon Cave. My strength is still too weak. Even if I use the heaven-cleaving skill, my battle strength is only at the pinnacle of the Sixth Realm. If I was stronger, I could have killed the Red Eye Master just now, Jian Wushuang thought. Yes, his target from the very beginning was Red Eye Master. As for Shi Yen Master, he was well aware of his strength. He could not pose any threat to Shi Yen Master, but Red Eye Master was different. Red Eye Master's soul skills were indeed impressive, but his ability to fight head-on was too weak. Apart from the illusion, ordinary soul attacks and soul-crushing attacks had no effect on him. As long as he could get close to the Red Eye Master, he indeed had a chance to kill him. It was precisely because of this that he was able to rely on the rebound force formed from his battle with the Shi Yen Master to get close to the Red Eye Master. But unfortunately, he was still a little lacking in the end. This Shi Yen Master and the Red Eye Master both come from the North Sea Palace. And the North Sea Palace is definitely one of the top 3 great forces in this territory. It is said that there are 4 ruler realm experts, far beyond what our Star Palace can compare to. Because the North Sea Palace is strong, the experts of the North Sea Palace are very arrogant. When they were adventuring in the 3 universe battlefields, they were very overbearing. However, Master Stone Loathsome and Red Eye Master have suffered a great loss in my hands. With their usual style of doing things, I'm afraid they won't let this matter go, Jian Wushuang thought to himself. He had almost killed the Red Eye Master, so it would be strange for them to give up in front of the Shi Yen Master. I'm not afraid of these 2 alone, but the North Sea Palace behind them. Jian Wushuang narrowed his eyes and shrugged. I had planned to explore the Nine Twists Demon Cave for a while, and then go to the special space-time that I found in the Shui Bay. But now it seems that I have to give up. Jian Wushuang had made up his mind, and immediately flew out of the Nine Twists Demon Cave along the star map. The Devil's Smoke Valley was too big. Even though Jian Wushuang was traveling at full speed, it still took him 3 years to leave the area of the Nine Twists Demon Cave. After that, it took him another 16 years. Only then did Jian Wushuang come to the unexplored area at the core of the Devil's Smoke Valley. As the name implied, the unexplored area was a place that had never been explored before. Only a small part of the great Devil's Smoke Valley had been explored, and most of the places belonged to the unexplored area. Most of the territory at the core of Devil's Smoke Valley also belonged to the unexplored area. Over the years, experts from various forces in the various star worlds in this territory would often go to these unexplored areas to explore. However, because they did not know what was ahead and what they would encounter, it was naturally extremely dangerous. However, there were more opportunities in these unexplored areas. Dark Cyan, a precipice that is over 100,000 feet tall. It should be here. Jian Wushuang looked at the precipice in front of him. This precipice was 100,000 feet tall, and its entire body was dark cyan. In the middle of the precipice, there was a small gap. The gap was very narrow, but it was enough for a cultivator to pass through. Shui Bei entered the unknown region through the gap in the middle of the cliff. Jian Wushuang narrowed his eyes and carefully looked at the star map left by Shui Bei. After confirming that the cliff in front of him was the place Shui Bei had mentioned, he immediately moved toward the gap in the middle of the cliff. When he entered the crack in the cliff, 2 principal's masters happened to pass by and saw Jian Wushuang. Who is that person? How could he choose to enter the unknown region from there? One of the principal's masters, who was wearing a red robe, asked curiously. He looks like the blood sword master, who just rose up not long ago. I heard that he appeared in the Nine Twists Demon Cave. I didn't expect that he would come here again and go directly into the unknown region. The other elder with a child's face and white hair also stared at Jian Wushuang. Thanks. This Bloodsword Master is quite bold. The unknown region is full of dangers, and most of the dangers are unpredictable. It can be said that life and death are purely dependent on luck. How long has it been since he came to the universe battlefield? Isn't he a bit too eager to go directly into the unknown region? The principal's master said in a red robe. Who knows? However, those who dare to venture into the unexplored regions are usually desperados. Many people are forced to go into the unexplored regions to search for great opportunities. For example, many people who are stuck at the same level and unable to break through for a long time can only enter the unexplored regions to gamble for a tiny chance of breaking through. Who knows, they might find great opportunities there and break through, said the elder with a youthful face and white hair. How can it be so easy to find such great opportunities? In any case, you and I don't have that much pressure. There's no need for us to gamble our lives there. The red-robed principal's master laughed. What the two of them were talking about was actually the understanding of the experts from the various powers in the various astral realms toward the unexplored regions. Within the three great battlefields, the unexplored regions were filled with great opportunities, but they were also filled with even more dangers. Even a ruler realm expert roaming within the unexplored regions would die if he wasn't careful, much less an ordinary principal's master. Therefore, very few people dared to venture into the unexplored regions within this territory. At the very least, those experts who had lived a comfortable life would not venture into the unexplored regions. There were only some who had no attachments or had reached a bottleneck in their strength and were unable to break through even after a long period of time. In order to find a chance to break through, they ventured into the unexplored regions. In addition, some people who were forced by their enemies had no choice but to try their luck in the unknown region. After all, the risks in the unknown region were too great. Because of this, when they saw Jian Wushuang entering the unknown region to explore, they said that Jian Wushuang was brave. However, they did not know that Jian Wushuang was not the kind of person who was impatient to live or could not improve his strength and could only try his luck in the unknown region. On the contrary, he had unlimited possibilities and his strength had been improving. However, the reason why he entered the unknown region was because Shui Bei had already paved the way for him. As long as he followed the star map left by Shui Bei, he could find the special space-time. According to Shui Bei, the special space-time definitely contained an incredible opportunity. Jian Wushuang had to go to such a place. Chapter 3561. Special time and space. After passing through the crack in the precipice, Jian Wushuang had completely stepped into the unknown region. What entered his eyes was still a dark and boundless land, with a faint black smoke floating in the void. It did not look much different from other places. In fact, from the moment Jian Wushuang set foot in the unexplored area, he knew nothing except for a route marked on the star map from Shui Bei. As the saying went, the unknown was dangerous. The areas explored in the Devil's Smoke Valley had many dangerous places, such as the Corpse Cave, the Death Hurricane Eye, and the Devil Flame Land, all of which were famous for their savagery. Even a ruler realm expert would have a slim chance of survival if he stepped into them. However, although these places were dangerous, they were known areas after all. The experts from various star worlds and forces knew that they would definitely die if they entered these places, so they naturally avoided them from afar. They would not step into them at all. However, the unknown areas were completely different. There was no way to know where the danger was. In other words, if you simply rushed forward, you would unknowingly step into some certain death places. This unknown region is too dangerous. I must completely follow the path, Shui Bei pointed out. I must not deviate. Once I deviate, I may encounter unknown dangers. Jian Wushuang's expression was solemn. After entering the unknown region, his nerves were completely tensed, and he became fully alert. Under this full alert, he also followed the path Shui Bei pointed out and slowly moved forward. His speed was very slow, even slower than the speed of an ordinary principles master. There was nothing he could do, because although Shui Bei had left a route, it was only a rough direction, there was no complete star map, so he naturally had to carefully find the right direction to move forward. If he did not pay attention to the direction while moving forward, even if it was just a small deviation, it could make him completely lost. Fortunately, Jian Wushuang was careful and achieved results. After a long 10 years, he finally came to a dark abyss. The dark abyss is here. Jian Wushuang stood in the void and looked down at the abyss. The abyss was pitch black and bottomless, but if one looked carefully, they would find a slowly flowing dark vortex in the center of the abyss. The dark vortex was not big, and its color was not deep. It was difficult to find it in the surrounding darkness. Master Shui Bei had come here by chance and stayed for a period of time before he discovered the existence of the dark vortex. What Jian Wushuang was looking for was this dark vortex. According to what Shui Bei said, this dark vortex is the passage to enter that special space-time. Jian Wushuang's face was solemn. He stared at the dark vortex in the abyss, took a deep breath, and then jumped down. Whoosh! Ear-piercing, air-piercing sounds continued to ring out. Jian Wushuang's eyes were cold as he fixed his gaze on the dark vortex. After a while, he directly flew into the dark vortex. When Jian Wushuang flew into the dark vortex, it was like a drop of water dropping into the sea. There was no fluctuation from the dark vortex, and the dark vortex was still slowly rotating in the middle of the abyss. As always, it was the same. After entering the dark vortex, Jian Wushuang came to the special space-time. It was a gray void, vast and boundless. There was no light, and there was no sky or earth. There was only a void. As Jian Wushuang stood there, he immediately sensed the difference between this space-time and the outside world. It's just as Shui Bei said. I can't sense the power of space-time at all here, and my connection with the outside world will be completely cut off. Jian Wushuang looked around and tried to contact the people outside, but there was no response. A completely independent space-time is completely different from the outside world, Jian Wushuang murmured. Not only that, but Jian Wushuang also sensed an extremely obscure crisis in this space-time. This sense of crisis had been present since he stepped into this space-time, which was also mentioned by Shui Bei in the star map. According to Shui Bei, after he entered this space-time, he immediately felt a sense of danger. As he continued to move forward, the sense of danger grew stronger. Later, he vaguely saw a floating platform, but because he saw that platform, the sense of danger in his heart rose to the extreme, as if he would die at the next moment. Therefore, he didn't have time to see what was on the platform before he turned around and left. Jian Wushuang narrowed his eyes. Shui Bei had indeed paved the way for him, but this path only led to the high platform. As for what happened next, Shui Bei did not know. When I came to the core area of Devil's Smoke Valley and entered this special space, I had the battle strength of the peak of the fifth realm. He didn't even see what was on the high platform and left in fear. But now, my strength is much higher than Shui Bei's, and my life-saving ability is much stronger than his. I should be able to see more things in this special space than him, Jian Wushuang muttered. In the next moment, Jian Wushuang slowly moved forward. As Shui Bei had said, as Jian Wushuang slowly moved forward, the sense of crisis in his heart grew stronger. However, this level of crisis naturally did not scare Jian Wushuang. He continued to move forward as usual. In the gray void, Jian Wushuang did not know how far he had walked or how long he had walked. He only knew that the sense of crisis in his heart was growing stronger, and he was getting closer and closer to the high platform. But at this moment, Jian Wushuang's expression suddenly changed. He saw a golden light in the gray void in front of him. Yes, it was a golden light. Although the golden light was dim and not as dazzling, it was still very eye-catching in the gray void. What is that golden light? With a trace of curiosity, Jian Wushuang rushed toward the golden light. However, when he approached the golden light and finally saw it clearly, he was stunned. The golden light was nothing else but a golden long spear. A long spear. There is such a spear floating in this special space and time. Jian Wushuang frowned and walked to the side of the golden long spear. After carefully observing the golden long spear, he reached out his hand and grabbed it. Chapter 3562. The corpse on the high platform the moment Jian Wushuang's palm touched the golden spear. An extremely powerful aura of a supreme true treasure instantly burst out. This aura is a top-tier universe true treasure. Jian Wushuang's face was full of astonishment. A top-tier universe true treasure was a treasure that many principles masters coveted. It was rare to see it in the 3 battlefields, and it was very difficult to see it in the world. For example, Jian Wushuang had been lucky enough to get a top-tier universe true treasure axe in 9 Twists Demon Cave, but now he had not encountered anything in this special space, nor had he reached the high platform mentioned in the star map by Shui Bei. Just on the way, he had found a spear of a top-tier universe true treasure. Moreover, when he had obtained the top-tier universe true treasure axe in the 9 Twists Demon Cave, he had spent a lot of effort to kill that demon. But now, he did not spend any effort here. This spear is indeed a top-tier universe true treasure, but how could such a top-tier universe true treasure just float in this space-time casually? Jian Wushuang could not help clenching his hands. At the same time, he remembered that Shui Bei had said that the Bodhi world was a treasure he had obtained in this special space-time. Now it seemed that Shui Bei had also discovered the existence of the Bodhi world when he was wandering in this gray void. It's not surprising that this gray void should only be the edge of this special space-time. The opportunities here should be the least, but even so, I still found a top-tier universe supreme treasure. I really don't know how many opportunities there are in this special space-time. Jian Wushuang praised. After putting the golden spear into his interspatial ring, he collected his emotions and continued to fly forward. After a few days, Jian Wushuang could finally see the floating high platform in front of him. That should be the high platform that Shui Bei saw. If I'm not mistaken, Shui Bei must have turned around and left here. Jian Wushuang stopped and looked up. He could vaguely see the existence of a high platform. The high platform should still be some distance away from him. Because of the obstruction of his vision, he could not see what was on the high platform. However, the moment he could vaguely see the high platform, the sense of crisis in his body instantly rose to a whole new level. This sense of crisis was too strong. It was only because he was stronger and more confident in his ability to survive. Shui Bei did not have his ability, so he did not dare to continue walking. Instead, he turned around and left. The judgment of Shui Bei is right. There should be a great opportunity in the high platform, but it should also be accompanied by great danger. He was only at the peak of the 5 states at that time. If he continued to walk blindly, he might not be able to get down, Jian Wushuang thought. Even he was a little hesitant after feeling the strong sense of danger. But soon his expression became firm. I had already expected the danger here. Since I dared to come here, I must have mentally prepared myself. Moreover, although the sense of danger is very strong, it's not so strong that I don't dare to move forward. After making up his mind, Jian Wushuang continued to move forward. As he continued to move forward, the sense of danger he sensed became stronger and stronger, and Jian Wushuang's expression became more and more solemn. Finally, he came to the front of the high platform, and at the same time, he could finally see the things on the high platform clearly. That is, Jian Wushuang looked at the high platform in front of him. The high platform was not very big, and there were no buildings on it. It was almost an empty space, but there were human-shaped statues around the empty space. These statues were lifelike and looked like real people. At a glance, there were a total of 18 statues. They stood neatly on the four sides of the high platform, facing the center of the high platform. It was as if they were guarding something. In the center of the high platform, there was a purple-haired elder sitting cross-legged. The purple-haired elder wore a blood-red armor and held a dark green, long stick in his hand. He was sitting cross-legged with his head lowered, but he was no longer breathing. Jian Wushuang's soul power swept over him. He did not sense any life fluctuation from the purple-haired elder. This man must have died many years ago, Jian Wushuang thought. The purple-haired old man was indeed dead. However, because of his incredible strength, his divine body was still intact even though he was dead. Not only his divine body, but also the blood-red armor and the dark green long stick in his hand. Jian Wushuang's soul power swept toward the armor and the long stick. However, he could not sense the specific power of the blood-red armor and the dark green long stick. I can't sense it with just my soul power. I can't know the level of the armor and the long stick unless I'm really close to them, Jian Wushuang murmured. If it were any other place or any other cultivator, they would definitely rush up and take the scarlet armor and the dark cyan long stick left by the purple-haired elder without hesitation. However, Jian Wushuang was not so impulsive. After all, this space-time gave him a strong sense of danger. Especially now, in front of the high platform, the sense of danger was even more terrifying. It was as if he approached the high platform, he would immediately suffer a disaster. Therefore, even though he knew that the purple-haired old man's armor and the dark cyan long rod were universe supreme treasures of an extremely high level, he did not rush to the high platform immediately. Instead, he carefully studied the high platform. There are no buildings on the high platform, and I can't sense any restrictions or magic arrays. If there really is a great danger, then it's most likely the human-shaped statues around the high platform. Jian Wushuang narrowed his eyes. He looked at the human-shaped statues. The human-shaped statues looked ordinary, but they were like guards. Although they did not have any vitality, they did not emit any power. However, Jian Wushuang still felt that these statues were extraordinary. There were many dangers on the high platform, and they were most likely on these human-shaped statues. After understanding this, Jian Wushuang began to ponder. Chapter 35-63. Star Thunder Ruler. These human-shaped statues are obviously the guards of this high platform. It's fine if I don't go near the high platform, but once I get close to the high platform, these human-shaped statues will probably wake up and kill me. The trouble is that I don't know the strength of these human-shaped statues. Jian Wushuang understood that the 3 battlefields in this territory were not formed naturally, but probably came from the depths of the universe. In the depths of the universe, experts were as numerous as clouds. There were many Overlord-level experts, and their methods were earth-shaking. The battlefields they left behind were filled with too many unknowns. In Jian Wushuang's opinion, These human-shaped statues on the high platform might be the battle strength of a principal's master, but they might also be the battle strength of a ruler realm expert. If they were only the battle strength of a principal's master, then it would be fine. Even if they were all at the pinnacle of the sixth realm, he still had a chance to protect himself. However, if all the human-shaped statues had the battle strength of a ruler, then he would be courting death. If he rushed forward, it would be no different from courting death. But I've come here with great difficulty, and the opportunity is right in front of me. I can't just turn around and leave like Shuebe. Jian Wushuang frowned and thought for a while. In the end, Jian Wushuang could only think of a way to neutralize the situation. I must get close to the high platform, but I don't need to be anxious. I'll try to get close first and see the reaction of these human-shaped statues. Even if they wake up, they can't rush to my side all at once. I can try to fight with them first and figure out their strength. If they are far beyond me and I can't fight them, I will escape immediately. As long as I don't go too deep, I can still escape from the edge of the high platform. Jian Wushuang made up his mind. He carefully approached the high platform in front of him. As he slowly approached the high platform, he focused his attention on the reactions of the human-shaped sculptures on the high platform and was ready to escape at any time. However, to his surprise, he was still extremely close to the high platform. However, the human-shaped sculptures on the high platform still did not have the slightest reaction. Even though he had half a foot on the high platform, the human-shaped sculptures still did not move at all. What's going on? Am I thinking too much? Are these human-shaped sculptures not dangerous? Jian Wushuang frowned. He was also full of doubts, but now he was completely standing on the high platform. Although he was at the edge of the high platform, those human-shaped sculptures should be able to wake up. But in fact, there was still no movement from those human-shaped sculptures. Let's not worry about that for now. Let's get the blood-red armor and the long stick first. Jian Wushuang narrowed his eyes. He took another step and slowly walked toward the corpse of the purple-haired elder in the center of the high platform. One step, 2 steps, Jian Wushuang had already appeared in front of the human-shaped sculptures. Even when he was close to the center of the platform, the sculptures still did not move. In the end, Jian Wushuang finally came to the side of the purple-haired elder. Did it really go so smoothly? Jian Wushuang stood beside the purple-haired elder's corpse and looked around the human-shaped sculptures with a trace of doubt, but the sculptures still did not respond. Shaking his head, Jian Wushuang did not think too much about it. He carefully inspected the purple-haired old man's divine body and confirmed that there was nothing wrong with it. Then he bowed slightly to the purple-haired old man and said, "Sorry to offend you." After bowing, he took the purple-haired old man's blood-red armor and the dark cyan longstaff in his hand. When he came into contact with the blood-red armor and the dark cyan longstaff, Jian Wushuang finally sensed the power of the 2 supreme treasures and knew their specific levels. Shadow Demon Thunder Rod, a Pinnacle Universe true treasure. Blood Demon Cave armor, a Pinnacle Universe true treasure armor. After learning the name and level of the armor and the long rod, Jian Wushuang was stunned. A Pinnacle Universe true treasure? And there's a Pinnacle Universe true treasure armor? Jian Wushuang's eyes were wide open. Universe true treasures were divided into elementary, advanced, pinnacle, peak, and supreme true treasures. 1 top-tier universe true treasures were enough to make countless principals' masters fight over them. As for pinnacle true treasures and supreme true treasures, they were usually only available to great beings at the ruler realm, and only a few principals' masters who were extremely powerful had them. That was why there were Pinnacle Universe true treasures. But now, Shadow Demon Thunderstaff and Blood Demon Cave Armor were both at the level of Pinnacle Universe true treasures. The Blood Demon Cave Armor was a Pinnacle Universe true treasure armor, which was so valuable that even an ordinary ruler realm expert would be envious of it. Under normal circumstances, even an extremely powerful Principles Master would be very lucky to have an attack weapon at the Pinnacle Universe true treasure level. It's impossible for him to have a Pinnacle Universe true treasure armor, since this old man left behind such a true treasure. Then his identity. Jian Wushuang looked at the purple-haired old man in front of him. Waves of emotions rose in his heart. This purple-haired old man should be a ruler. If he was not mistaken, Jian Wushuang's expression suddenly changed. He noticed that there was a black ring on the ring finger of the purple-haired old man's right hand. Interspatial ring. Jian Wushuang's eyes lit up. This ruler left not only the Blood Demon Cave Armor and the Shadow Demon Thunderstaff, but also the interspatial ring. Jian Wushuang was overjoyed. The Blood Demon Cave Armor and the Shadow Demon Thunderstaff alone were invaluable, but now there was an interspatial ring. The interspatial ring was left by the ruler. It should contain all the wealth of the ruler realm expert, and the entire wealth of a ruler realm expert. Jian Wushuang was excited just thinking about it. Jian Wushuang possessed it and took off the interspatial ring on the ring finger of the purple-haired elder. Since the owner of the interspatial ring had died, Jian Wushuang could use his consciousness to check it. However, when he checked it, he immediately frowned. What's going on? How can there be a token in this interspatial ring? Jian Wushuang took out the only token left in the interspatial ring with surprise, and then sank his consciousness into the token. In an instant, a vast amount of information surged toward Jian Wushuang. I am the Star Thunder ruler in the mortal world. The first sentence of the information revealed the true identity of the purple-haired elder, and it also proved Jian Wushuang's guess. He is indeed a ruler, but I have never heard of the Star Thunder ruler. There is also the mortal world. There seems to be no mortal world in the dozens of star worlds in the surrounding territories. Jian Wushuang frowned. Then he continued reading. Chapter 3564. Pathetic, pitiful, hateful. I have been wandering in the unexplored area of Devil's Smoke Valley for many years. I accidentally discovered this special space-time and barged into this high platform. From that day onward, I fell into a nightmare of endless years. On this high platform, there are 18 human-shaped sculptures. They formed their own magic formations. When I barged into this high platform, they did not wake up. However, when I wanted to leave the high platform, they would immediately wake up and display shocking strength to stop me. I tried my best, but I could not break through their obstruction, nor could I take half a step out of this high platform. During this long period of time, I was trapped by these 18 human-shaped sculptures on this high platform. After 1,000,000 years, I racked my brain and tried countless ways, but I still couldn't break through the array of these 18 human-shaped sculptures. I was almost in despair. After being trapped for 3,000,000 years, I found that although the array of the human-shaped sculptures on this high platform was extremely powerful, it was not impossible for me to break through it. Therefore, I began to study the array of the human-shaped sculptures. After being trapped for 5,000,000 years, my staff technique improved greatly, and I finally had the ability to fight these human-shaped sculptures head-on. However, I was only able to compete with one of the human-shaped sculptures. It was still extremely far for me to break through the array formed by 18 human-shaped sculptures. However, I have already seen a great hope. After being trapped for 8,000,000 years, my staff technique improved again. Even if I were to face 2 or 3 human-shaped sculptures at the same time, I would still be able to do it with ease. This made me even more convinced that I could rely on my own ability to break through these 18 human-shaped sculpture arrays. After being trapped for 10 million years, although my staff skills did not improve greatly, they were still much better than before. My hopes were also growing. However, when the 10 million years period was just over, the 18 human-shaped sculptures that would not take the initiative to attack me as long as I did not try to leave the high platform actually took the initiative to attack me. Moreover, the 18 human-shaped sculptures attacked me at the same time, not giving me the slightest chance to struggle. Only then did I understand that these 18 human-shaped sculptures were a test, and the duration of the test was 10 million years. If I could break through these 18 human-shaped sculptures within 10 million years, then I would pass the test. Unfortunately, I didn't do it. 18 human-shaped sculptures attacked at the same time. I knew that I was going to die, but I hated it. I couldn't accept it. I was a ruler. How could I die in this place that no one knew about? Even if I was going to die, I couldn't die a coward. I wanted to let people know about this place. I wanted more people to come here. Most importantly, I wanted people to die with me. Then, I threw all the treasures I've collected in my life out of the high platform and let them wander in this space and time on their own. I hope that one day someone will find these treasures and find this place. I even put my shadow demon, lightning rod, and blood demon cave armor in a conspicuous place. I want those who come near the high platform to see the 2 treasures I left behind, and then charge into the high platform without caring about their own safety. That way, they can follow in my footsteps. You've been trapped here for tens of thousands of years, and you've been working hard with only a tiny bit of hope. In the end, when you finally saw the chance to break out, you were immediately wiped out. How could I be the only one who experienced this despair? Ha ha! Aren't you furious and terrified when you see this? It's useless. From the moment you entered the platform, picked up the command token that I left behind, and saw the contents of the command token, you were destined to be trapped here. You were destined to experience my despair. Ha ha! Be angry and resentful. Remember my name, the Star Thunder Ruler. The message finally ended here. After Jian Wushuang read all the information in the token, he was as shocked and angry as the Star Thunder Ruler said. A trap. The Star Thunder Ruler deliberately put his supreme treasure armor and magic weapon in a conspicuous place before he died to attract people to break into the high platform and get trapped here like him. He's taking revenge. He's taking revenge on the experts who came to this high platform. Jian Wushuang clenched his hands. In his opinion, the Star Thunder Ruler was really hateful. He was the one who accidentally broke into the high platform and was trapped here. If he was kinder, he could leave some traces here so that the newcomers would notice the danger of the high platform and not easily break in. Even if he was not so kind-hearted, he would have done nothing and left the newcomers to fend for themselves. However, he first threw the treasures he had collected all his life out of the high platform and let them float in this special space and time, so as to attract the experts who had mistakenly entered this special space and came to the high platform with the desire for opportunities. Then he deliberately revealed his 2 true treasures to make the experts who came to the high platform greedy, and then intruded into the center of the high platform. When Jian Wushuang came to the high platform this time, he saw the 2 true treasures left by the Star Thunder Ruler at first glance. Although he could not see the specific level of power of these 2 true treasures, he could tell at a glance that these 2 true treasures were extraordinary. The more he could not see the truth, the more attractive they were to the cultivators. Jian Wushuang could not help but feel that he had already come. He could not come here for nothing. So he entered the center of the high platform. If he did not have these 2 supreme treasures, he would have sensed the danger from the beginning and would not have entered the high platform so easily. He is a hateful person, but at the same time, he is also very sad, very pitiful. Jian Wushuang said again. It was sad because the Star Thunder ruler, a dignified ruler, was a super expert who could do whatever he wanted in this territory, but in the end, he was trapped in this place, and no one knew about it. It was really sad. It was a pity that the Star Thunder ruler had seen a chance to walk out of the high platform in the past tens of millions of years. If he was given more time, he would be able to walk out. However, when the tens of millions of years were up, his hope was gone, and he was killed on the spot. His hope turned into despair. It was a pity. Although Jian Wushuang was angry at such a pitiful person, he could not feel any hatred at this moment. Star Thunder ruler, although you deliberately tricked me, the two supreme treasures you left behind did indeed fall into my hands. It can be considered as a great benefit to me. I still have to thank you. As for whether I can walk out of here alive, it depends on my own luck. Jian Wushuang took a deep breath. Then he looked at the human-shaped statues around the high platform. As expected, the biggest danger of this high platform is these human-shaped statues. When I walked in earlier, I was on guard against them, but I didn't expect that these statues were not blocking my way in, but would prevent me from leaving. Chapter 3565. Human-shaped statues. The human-shaped statues on the high platform had no reaction from the moment Jian Wushuang stepped onto the high platform. According to the Star Thunder ruler, these human-shaped statues will only wake up when you try to leave the high platform. They will not wake up completely in the beginning. Only one or two will wake up, but even if it's just a human-shaped statue, it will crush the Star Thunder ruler in the beginning. If the Star Thunder ruler is right and the human-shaped sculpture is so powerful, then the human-shaped sculpture array is too terrifying. Jian Wushuang frowned. In any case, I have to try it myself. Besides, the Star Thunder ruler said that the human-shaped sculpture array is just a test. It won't kill you directly in the beginning. It will only kill you when the time comes. Thinking of this, Jian Wushuang took a deep breath and took out his shadow sword. Then he slowly walked out of the high platform. Jian Wushuang had only taken 2 steps. Buzz! The high platform suddenly shook. Then Jian Wushuang saw a human-shaped sculpture in front of him shake a little, and a lot of dust scattered. The human-shaped sculpture slowly moved. At the same time, the eyes of the human-shaped statue opened directly. These eyes were emotionless and without any intelligence. After opening them, they directly aimed at Jian Wushuang. Let's try. Jian Wushuang clenched his teeth and immediately used his life magic power. His body turned into lightning and suddenly shot out. The moment he moved, the awakened human-shaped statue also moved. It took a series of steps, each step easily crossing hundreds of feet. In a flash, it appeared in front of Jian Wushuang. At the same time, the ancient dark black longsword in his hand also slashed down. Heaven-cleaving skill, no rest until death. Jian Wushuang knew how terrifying the human-shaped statue was, so he did not dare to underestimate it. As soon as he attacked, he unleashed his strongest battle strength. Not only did he use the heaven-cleaving skill, but he also used his strongest skill. No rest until death. Swoosh! The sword light, with endless destructive will, accompanied by endless hatred, slashed out directly. In the blink of an eye, the sword light collided with the dark black long sword of the human-shaped statue. Clang! With a loud sound, Jian Wushuang's arm shook slightly, and his whole body shot out like a cannonball. He did not stop until he returned to the center of the high platform, which was the corpse of the Star Thunder ruler. Seeing Jian Wushuang return here, the human-shaped statue returned to where it had been standing before, and its eyes were closed. Jian Wushuang was not frightened by the strength displayed by the human-shaped statue. Instead, he was surprised. What's going on? Didn't the Star Thunder ruler say that the human-shaped statue was enough to crush him? However, although the human-shaped statue is very powerful and can crush me, its battle strength is still at the level of a principal's master, and it hasn't reached the pinnacle of a principal's master, but a principal's master at the pinnacle of the sixth realm? Jian Wushuang's expression was strange. However, he immediately thought of a possibility. Could it be that the human-shaped sculpture array is based on the strength of the cultivator trapped in the middle of the high platform? The Star Thunder ruler is a ruler realm expert, so these human-shaped sculptures display the battle strength of a ruler. Although I have the battle strength of a principal's master, am only an immortal saint. So what these human-shaped sculptures display is the battle strength of a principal's master? Jian Wushuang thought of this possibility, which seemed very likely to him. Let's try again. Jian Wushuang did not hesitate to try again. This time, although he activated his life divine power, he did not use the heaven-cleaving skill. The battle strength he released was only in the initial stage of the sixth realm, but he still used his strongest move. The result was that he was defeated again, the same result as before. However, after this attempt, Jian Wushuang's eyes lit up. As expected, this human-shaped sculpture array is a test, and this test is determined by the strength of the cultivator. To be exact, it depends on the power of the cultivator. When I used the heaven-cleaving skill, the power I displayed was at the pinnacle of the sixth realm, so the power displayed by the human-shaped sculpture was also at the pinnacle of the sixth realm. Later, when I didn't use the heaven-cleaving skill, the power displayed by the human-shaped sculpture was only at the initial stage of the sixth realm, so the power displayed by the human-shaped sculpture was only at the initial stage of the sixth realm. The power is exactly the same. Even the power of the supreme treasure and the secret skill are the same. The only difference is the secret skill. Jian Wushuang recalled the two collisions he had just had with the humanoid statue. During the two collisions, the swordsmanship displayed by the humanoid statue was the same. The power of the swordsmanship was extremely powerful, even more powerful than the ultimate skill that he had created. According to the information left by the Star Thunder ruler, he has made a lot of progress in his strength over the past tens of millions of years. The progress is mainly in his staff skills. If nothing goes wrong, it should be the strongest ultimate skill that he created. In other words, if you want to break through the human-shaped sculpture formation, you have to rely on your own absolute art. As for other powers or other methods, they are useless. Jian Wushuang's eyes were shining. He could see that the absolute art displayed by the human-shaped sculpture was still at the peak of rank 6, but it was stronger than his deadly one. In other words, as long as he could create a stronger absolute art, in terms of power, it was superior to the absolute art of the human-shaped sculpture, so he could win the head-on collision with the human-shaped sculpture. If he won the head-on collision, he would not be repelled by the human-shaped sculpture. Instead, he could repent the human-shaped sculpture, and then he could naturally leave the high platform. Of course, there was not only one human-shaped sculpture on the high platform, but a total of 18. If all the absolute arts displayed by the 18 were like that, then even if Jian Wushuang created a more powerful absolute art at the peak of level 6 than the human-shaped sculpture, he would still be unable to break through the human-shaped sculpture formation. At the very least, he had to create an ultimate skill at the 6th rank, the strongest ultimate skill. Jian Wushuang clenched his hands, his eyes shining with a fierce light. When he was in the divine beginning realm, he had seen Demon Master Chenhua perform the strongest ultimate skill with his own eyes. The power was indeed earth-shaking. Demon Master Chenhua had also put in endless effort to reach that step. Now, he was still very far from that step. Chapter 3566. Two consciousnesses. Fortunately, this human-shaped statue array has a time limit of tens of millions of years, which is enough for me. Let's take it slowly. Jian Wushuang was not in a hurry. He had experienced too many storms and waves in his 2 lives. He had also experienced many trials of this human-shaped statue array. He was no longer afraid, and it was useless even if he was afraid. With the facts in front of him, he could only try his best to pass this trial. This human-shaped statue happens to use a sword as a weapon. Its swordsmanship is extremely powerful and contains profound mysteries. I can observe it during the battle. Although I have attacked twice in a row, I have only met it head-on twice. I wonder how its swordsmanship is in other aspects. Jian Wushuang smiled slightly, then he struck again and swept toward the figure. Soon Jian Wushuang and the human-shaped sculpture again. While Jian Wushuang was trapped in the middle of the high platform and fighting with the human-shaped sculpture, behind the high platform, in the deepest part of this special space-time, there was a consciousness that had been sleeping for God knows how many years. And then he woke up. Has someone come to this place again and is breaking through the 18 deadly arrays? The last time someone came to challenge the 18 absolute formations was 3 chaos cycles ago. Although the person who came to challenge the 18 absolute formations ended up dying within it, he was still a ruler-level figure, and he was more or less on the verge of passing through it. But this time, the only person who came was an immortal saint. I didn't expect a mere saint to be able to come to this space-time. How interesting. This consciousness was obviously awakened in the deepest part of the space-time, but it seemed to have complete control over everything in this space-time. Like what happened to Jian Wushuang on the high platform, this consciousness was also very clear. Third brother. This consciousness suddenly let out a deep voice, echoing in the deepest part of this space-time. Not long after, another consciousness also woke up in the deepest part of this special space-time. What's the matter? A cold voice was heard. Have you seen that little guy who is challenging the 18 ultimate formation? The first consciousness said, He is just an ant. Is he worth you waking me up? The second consciousness said coldly, The saint level is indeed an ant, but this little guy's ability is extraordinary. Didn't you see that he has already created the pinnacle absolute art of a principal's master? Moreover, his battle strength doesn't seem to be much weaker than an ordinary principal's master of the 6th realm. A mere saint can actually possess such battle strength. If I'm not mistaken, his life level should be extremely high. He might even be a legendary perfect level life form. Such a life form is as rare as a phoenix feather or a Qilin horn even in the vast universe. The first consciousness said, So what? Even though perfect level life forms are rare, it's not like there aren't any in the vast universe. However, how many people can reach the peak? Not to mention standing at the top of the universe. Even stepping into the position of supreme being would be extremely difficult. And this little fellow, even though he has a perfect level life form, from the moment he stepped into this space-time and entered the 18 ultimate formations, his fate was already determined. Over tens of millions of years, he will never be able to break through the 18 ultimate formations. In the end, he will still die. The second consciousness said coldly, You're right. The 18 ultimate formations left behind by Master are an extremely terrifying test even in the vast universe. In addition, these tests usually target cultivators at the ruler realm. If this little fellow is already a ruler, then with his talent, he might have a chance to make it through in 10 million years. Unfortunately, when he entered this formation, he was only an immortal saint. The test that the immortal saint will face in the 18 ultimate formations will be tens or even hundreds of times more difficult than that of a ruler realm cultivator. After all, it is indeed inconceivable for an immortal saint to reach that level in absolute arts. However, when this little fellow entered the 18 ultimate formations, he already created a peak tier 6 absolute art. His starting point is already very high, so there might be a slight chance. The first consciousness said, "Humph, a slight chance? Maybe, but do you think he can succeed?" The second consciousness snorted. The first consciousness hesitated for a moment, but smiled bitterly. Fourth, don't forget, we are now at the edge of the universe. It can be said that we are in the barren land of the vast universe. The cultivators born in this barren land are far inferior to those born in the core area of the universe in terms of talent, comprehension, and other aspects. Master had such a great reputation and power in the deepest part of the universe. He had rushed to this space and time for countless years, and there were countless people who deliberately came to challenge the 18 ultimate formation. But in the end, only 3 people were able to pass. Those 3 are all top-tier beings in the universe. In fact, they can be said to be the most incredible geniuses. Later on, they became autarchs one after another, and all of them were the most terrifyingly powerful of them all. However, 2 of them passed the tests at the Rulric level, while the other was a principal's master. This little fellow is merely an immortal saint. Do you think that this little fellow, who was born in a barren land, is even more monstrous than the 3 decision-making geniuses who passed the 18 absolute formations? Even though this little guy has a perfect level life form, his life level is only an innate advantage. Even though he has endless potential, it doesn't explain his talent. The second consciousness said, "You're right." The first consciousness nodded, obviously agreeing with this point. In their opinion, not to mention this barren land at the edge of the universe, even if there were super geniuses from all corners of the universe in the deepest parts of the universe, there probably would not be a super monster who could break through the 18 absolute arrays at the level of the immortal saint. Third brother, if you have time to pay attention to that little fellow, why don't you sleep well and recover from your injuries? We followed our master in battle and have been down and out since then, but you probably don't want to continue like this, right? Only by doing our best to recover can we get out of this predicament as soon as possible. The second consciousness said, "Understood." The first consciousness nodded and immediately fell silent. The 2 consciousnesses quickly fell into a deep sleep again. The deepest part of this vast space-time was once again completely silent. Not a single sound could be heard. Chapter 3567. Evolution of Sword Techniques. The vast universe was vast and boundless. The territory where the divine beginning realm was located did indeed belong to the edge of the universe. It could also be said that it was a barren land of the universe. However, the universe had its own laws. Although this territory did not have such excellent cultivation conditions as those in the depths of the universe, it had 3 great battlefields filled with endless opportunities. For a long time, experts from various forces in the astral world of this territory had competed to explore these 3 battlefields. Jian Wushuang was now in a special space-time in the unknown region deep in Devil's Smoke Valley. Because this place was an unknown region, no one knew about it, and no one would be able to find it. When Jian Wushuang was trapped in this special space-time, he was completely cut off from the outside world. He could only explore the human-shaped sculpture array day after day, trying his best to improve his swordsmanship, to improve his absolute art. Time passed by quickly, and 1,800 years passed in a flash. 1,800 years was a long time for Jian Wushuang in this life, but for many cultivators in the universe, it was very short, almost in the blink of an eye. In addition, 1,800 years was a long time compared to the tens of millions of years of the human-shaped sculpture array. On the high platform, Jian Wushuang's eyes were like lightning, and he was still fighting with the human-shaped sculpture with the shadow divine sword in his hand. However, unlike before, he did not show any power at all. He did not use the power of several wills he had mastered, including some secret skills and the power of the blood crystal armor. He knew that these powers would have no effect on him breaking out of the array, no matter how much power he showed. Even if he showed the power of a ruler, the humanoid sculpture would show the same power as him. Therefore, he simply relied on his basic divine power to fight with the humanoid sculpture. The difference was his swordsmanship. Compared to 1,800 years ago, Jian Wushuang's swordsmanship had improved greatly. Whoosh! A ghostly purple phantom, like an extremely agile purple demonic beast, jumped down from above and slashed toward the shoulder of the humanoid sculpture. Level 6 Pinnacle Absolute Art, Purple Charm. The humanoid sculpture simply moved and easily avoided the purple phantom. At the same time, the dark black longsword in his hand quickly slashed down like a black lightning bolt. Jian Wushuang had been prepared for this. A wave of destructive will suddenly swept up and burst out with a deadly hatred. An absolute art at the peak of level 6. Deadly. Bang! A low collision sound was heard. Jian Wushuang and the human-shaped sculpture both retreated. However, the moment Jian Wushuang steadied himself, the absolute shadow divine sword in his hand strangely pierced like a meteor phantom. It pierced directly into the chest of the human-shaped statue, and a terrifying strangling power suddenly erupted. The 6th-stage pinnacle skill, Sword Rainbow. However, the sword was still blocked by the human-shaped statue. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. One after another, sword lights and sword shadows lit up in the void on the high platform, and the terrifying sword essence filled the entire high platform. Jian Wushuang displayed his swordsmanship to the fullest. The human-shaped sculpture did not emit any aura, but it could still easily deal with Jian Wushuang's swordsmanship. In the blink of an eye, Jian Wushuang fought fiercely with the human-shaped sculpture for an hour before finally stopping. Jian Wushuang returned to the center of the high platform. After he returned, Jian Wushuang took a deep look at the human-shaped sculpture that had closed its eyes again and let out a long sigh in his heart. 1,800 years. I have studied swordsmanship for 1,800 years. I have made great progress in swordsmanship, but I am only on par with this human-shaped sculpture. I am even slightly inferior. Jian Wushuang sighed in his heart. In the past 1,800 years, he had fought with this human-shaped sculpture many times. As he fought, he realized that this human-shaped sculpture did not only know swordsmanship, but also swordsmanship in all other aspects. It was extremely terrifying among the top-tier 6th-level absolute arts. Because of this, he was completely crushed by this human-shaped sculpture even after using all of his skills at the beginning. However, as he fought and observed it over and over again, he also gained some insights into swordsmanship. Gradually, his swordsmanship improved as well. After 1,800 years, his swordsmanship had indeed improved tremendously. In terms of swordsmanship alone, other than the deadly attacks at the beginning, he had created a total of 3 sword techniques. These 3 sword techniques were all peak tier 6 ultimate techniques. And among those peak tier 6 ultimate techniques, they were all extremely powerful. There was also the deadly attacks. In the past 1,800 years, he had improved and improved several times. Now, he could rely on this move to fight head-on with the humanoid sculpture. At the very least, he would not be at a disadvantage. It could be said that his sword techniques had improved too much. However, even so, he could not gain the slightest advantage in this fierce battle with the humanoid sculpture. He could not even break through the obstruction of the first humanoid sculpture, not to mention the other 17 humanoid sculptures that had yet to make a move. My swordsmanship has already improved greatly. Furthermore, the few sword techniques I created should have reached the peak of Tier 6 Ultimate Arts, but they still can't break through the obstruction of this human-shaped sculpture. It seems that if I want to break through the obstruction of this sculpture, I must create the strongest ultimate art. As for this strongest ultimate art, this human-shaped sculpture doesn't know how to use it, so I have no way to observe and experience it. I can only slowly comprehend it myself. Fortunately, my comprehension of sword principle has reached a new level, and I have created the 4 strongest absolute arts of the peak of the 6 states. It's not too difficult to create the strongest absolute arts based on this. Jian Wushuang took a deep breath and sat down with his legs crossed. Soon he closed his eyes. He knew very well that without any reference or observation, he could only create the strongest absolute arts by evolving and simulating them in the depths of his mind. Only when he had a rough model of swordsmanship in his mind could he try to follow it. Therefore, the most important thing for him now was the evolution of swordsmanship. From that day on, Jian Wushuang did not fight with the human-shaped sculpture. Instead, he sat cross-legged in the center of the high platform without moving at all. All kinds of swordsmanship appeared in his mind. These sword techniques kept combining and evolving to form new sword techniques. Time passed quietly. Chapter 3568, the most powerful ultimate skill, Starfire Burning Sun. Another 1,200 years passed in a flash. Jian Wushuang had been trapped in this high platform for 3,000 years, including the 1,800 years he had spent before. During the 1,200 years, Jian Wushuang did not move at all. He had been sitting cross-legged and thinking about various sword techniques. It was not until this moment that he slowly opened his eyes. It's about time. If the evolution of swordsmanship in my mind is correct, then the final sword move that I have evolved should be able to reach the level of the strongest ultimate skill. Now, I can only keep trying and practicing it. Jian Wushuang took a deep breath. Then he stood up. He glanced at the motionless humanoid sculpture with its eyes closed, and in the next moment, he directly rushed out. The moment he moved, the human-shaped statue immediately woke up and rushed forward with a dark black longsword in its hand. The two of them met head-on on the high platform. Jian Wushuang did not dodge, and directly used his swordsmanship to meet it head-on. Cut! A low shout came out of Jian Wushuang's mouth, and the shadow-killing sword in his hand turned into a purple, graceful sword. It was extremely violent and swift. The human-shaped statue also slashed out its dark black longsword. The two sword shadows collided head-on. Bang! A low sound of collision rang out. The two powerful forces collided, but the human-shaped statue was the first to be unable to withstand it. It took a few steps back. As expected, I have the upper hand. Jian Wushuang smiled. The sword skill he had just displayed was the sword skill that had evolved in his mind over the past 1,200 years. In his opinion, this swordsmanship could reach the level of the strongest absolute art. However, because he had just evolved it and had not really tried to practice it, it was naturally impossible for him to directly reach the level of the strongest absolute art. However, it was still much stronger than the average peak level 6 absolute art. Therefore, he had gained the upper hand when he fought head-on with the human-shaped sculpture. This was the first time that Jian Wushuang had gained the upper hand in the collision with the human-shaped sculpture after being trapped on the high platform for so many years. I have just evolved, and now I have such power. It proves that my evolution is not wrong. Next, I just need to keep practicing." Jian Wushuang's eyes were shining. Again, he immediately rushed toward the human-shaped sculpture again and chose to fight head-on. Bang! It was another confrontation. Jian Wushuang used the same sword move, but the power of this sword move was obviously a little stronger than the previous one, and it had a greater advantage in the collision with the human-shaped sculpture. "Haha, continue." Jian Wushuang's face was full of smiles as he rushed forward to meet the human-shaped sculpture head-on again and again. He attacked again and again, displaying the swordsmanship that had evolved over 1,200 years. During this practice, the power of the swordsmanship had been increasing. At first, he only had a slight advantage in the head-on collision with the human-shaped sculpture, but gradually, the advantage grew until it was completely crushed. Every head-on collision, the human-shaped sculpture was almost pushed back by him by hundreds of feet, until the 171st collision between Jian Wushuang and the human-shaped sculpture. It's like a volcano that has been dormant for many years suddenly erupting. The most important part of my sword attack is the instantaneous explosive power. Instantaneous, explosive power. Jian Wushuang's eyes flashed with a fierce light, and the shadow divine sword in his hand emitted a faint purple cold light. In an instant, he slashed out. The sword's shadow swept across the air, but in the process, it seemed to form a burning purple flame and instantly covered the human-shaped sculpture. After all, the human-shaped sculpture had no intelligence, and was only blindly using sword skills to resist. However, when the two sword lights collided, the purple flame contained an earth-shaking power. It was like a volcano that had been silent for hundreds of millions of years suddenly exploded and destroyed the world in an instant. Boom! A violent explosion was heard, and the surrounding void faintly trembled. The human-shaped sculpture had been completely swallowed by the terrifying power that erupted from the shadow divine sword. Whoosh! Like a meteor, the human-shaped sculpture was completely blown away and directly flew out of the high platform. However, because of the material of the human-shaped sculpture, Jian Wushuang's sword attack did not really cause any damage to it. However, the result of sending the human-shaped statue out of the high platform was already a pleasant surprise to Jian Wushuang. The most powerful ultimate skill has been achieved. Jian Wushuang clenched his hands, his eyes filled with unconcealable ecstasy. The moment he sent the human-shaped statue out of the high platform, he knew that the power of his sword attack had indeed reached the level of the most powerful ultimate skill. After 1,800 years of refining and upgrading his swordsmanship, and then 1,000 years of evolution, he finally created his most powerful ultimate skill. He had already thought of the name of this ultimate skill. When this swordsmanship is performed, it's like a sky full of sparks devouring everything. Its name should be Starfire Burning Sun. Jian Wushuang said with a smile. The most powerful absolute art created by Jian Wushuang, Starfire Burning Sun, was born. When Jian Wushuang created Starfire Burning Sun and sent the human-shaped sculpture flying out of the high platform, the first consciousness woke up again in the deepest part of this special space-time. He created the most powerful level 6 absolute art in just 3,000 years. He's quite capable. The consciousness could not help but praise him at first. But then he said, but he has already created a top-tier skill of the 6th rank when he arrived, so his starting point is quite high. It's not too shocking for him to create the strongest skill of the 6th rank in 3,000 years. Moreover, the immortal saint can't just create the strongest skill of the 6th rank to pass the 18 skill formation. He is still far from passing the 18 skill formation. With that, the consciousness went silent again. Of course, Jian Wushuang did not know the existence of this consciousness at all, nor did he know how it evaluated him. He was only happy and surprised at his breakthrough in swordsmanship. At the same time, he began to look forward to the human-shaped sculpture array. I have created the most powerful skill of the sixth realm. A single human-shaped sculpture is no longer a threat to me, but I wonder if I can break out of this high platform now. Taking a deep breath, Jian Wushuang arrived at the central area of the high platform in the next moment. Chapter 35:69. 6 human-shaped sculptures. Previously, Jian Wushuang had only tried to rush out of the high platform. As soon as he moved, the human-shaped sculpture closest to him would wake up and stop him. He had been unable to break through just one human-shaped sculpture. Naturally, the other human-shaped sculptures did not wake up. But now, the humanoid statue had been thrown out of the high platform. He had successfully arrived at the middle of the high platform. When he arrived here, a total of 5 humanoid statues around the high platform opened their eyes at the same time, including the one that had been thrown out of the high platform by Jian Wushuang. A total of 6 humanoid statues moved to kill him at the same time. Only 6. Jian Wushuang frowned. He thought that he had created the most powerful skill and broken through the first human-shaped statue, so the next 17 statues should all wake up. However, only 6 of them attacked. Only 1/3 of them, the remaining 12 statues, still did not move. Can 6 human-shaped sculptures stop me? Jian Wushuang's expression was cold. After all, there was a huge gap between an absolute art at the peak of the 6th rank and the most powerful absolute art at the 6th rank. The difference in the power of the absolute art was more than 10 times. This meant that Jian Wushuang could easily crush any human-shaped sculpture. However, if 6 of them joined hands, he could still crush them with the Starfire burning sun move. Soon, Jian Wushuang made his move. Boom! The power burst out. Jian Wushuang's shadow sword emitted a faint purple cold light and slashed out in an instant. The sword shadow swept out, forming a raging purple flame that covered the 6 human-shaped sculptures in front of him. The 6 human-shaped sculptures immediately made their moves. They stood in front of Jian Wushuang and attacked together. The posture and power of the 6 human-shaped sculptures were exactly the same. It was exactly the same as the swordsmanship of the human-shaped statue that Jian Wushuang had been fighting for 3,000 years. The swordsmanship was only at the peak of stage 6. However, after the 6 human-shaped statues displayed their swordsmanship, an incredible scene appeared. The 6 human-shaped statues displayed their swordsmanship individually, but after they displayed their swordsmanship, the swordsmanship of the 6 human-shaped statues immediately formed a whole. As if their swordsmanship was a whole, the 6 sword shadows also completely merged into one, instantly forming an incredible sword shadow that slashed toward Jian Wushuang. Boom! The sword shadow swept through the battle as if it was a piece of dried twigs. The burning purple flames that covered the entire sky disappeared in an instant, and Jian Wushuang's sword move completely disintegrated. The power of the sword shadow was still applied to Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang only felt an incredible power rushing toward him, instantly pushing him back to the starting point, which was the center of the high platform. After returning to this place, the 6 human-shaped sculptures immediately stopped and returned to where they were standing and closed their eyes again. However, at this moment, Jian Wushuang's mind was in a daze. How could this be? Jian Wushuang's face was full of disbelief. After all, he had created the most powerful skill of the 6th stage. His Starfire burning sun move was obviously much more powerful than the swordsmanship displayed by the human-shaped sculptures, even more than 10 times. However, when the 6 human-shaped sculptures joined hands and displayed the same swordsmanship, they actually merged together and completely crushed him. A formation. These human-shaped sculptures use a special formation. Jian Wushuang narrowed his eyes slightly. He could see that these human-shaped sculptures combined their swordsmanship with a special formation to form a whole. After forming a whole, the swordsmanship was dozens of times more powerful than the swordsmanship displayed by each of them. It was much stronger than his Starfire burning sun, which was why he was crushed. I thought that as long as I created the strongest 6th level skill, I would have a chance to pass through this high platform. But now it seems that I'm still far from it. Jian Wushuang felt bitter in his heart. The swordsmanship power formed by the combination of 6 human-shaped sculptures was much stronger than the strongest skill he had created. So if 10 human-shaped sculptures joined hands, or if all 18 sculptures joined hands, then what incredible power would they have after combining their swordsmanship? It's not enough. Creating the strongest absolute art of the 6th realm is not enough to break out of this array. It's far from enough. If these 18 sculptures can perfectly combine their swordsmanship and increase the power of their swordsmanship by dozens or even hundreds of times, then if I want to break through this place, I have to create at least the ruler realm, which is a 7th level absolute art. Jian Wushuang's face was very ugly. A rank 7 secret art was a master realm secret art. Under normal circumstances, only experts at the master realm could create such a secret art. Of course, a few heaven-defying experts at the pinnacle of the 6th realm could also create such a secret art, but after all, there were too few of them. In this territory, there were not many experts at the pinnacle of the 6th realm, but among these experts, there was probably no one who had created a master realm secret art. If there was one person, Jian Wushuang knew it was Di Shisan. Di Shisan, the leader of the 7-star mysterious sect, who had a great relationship with Jian Wushuang. According to Elder Darkbone, Di Shisan was a genius of sword principle. His understanding of sword principle had reached a new level, which many experts at the ruler realm had never been involved in. His understanding of sword principle was so high, it was no surprise that he must have created a master realm absolute art. However, Jian Wushuang could not find another person in this territory besides him. What kind of person was Di Shisan? He was definitely a shocking sword principle genius. Jian Wushuang was not so arrogant as to be able to compete with such a sword principle genius. Moreover, Di Shisan was a genuine principles master, and he was also a principles master at the pinnacle of the 6th realm. However, Jian Wushuang was just an immortal saint. For an immortal saint to create at least a level 7 absolute art, the test of the human-shaped sculpture array, was so harsh that it was unbearable. This test, Jian Wushuang clenched his hands, feeling a little angry. He was angry because the test was too difficult. He had been through all kinds of tests in his 2 lives, but he had never felt that it was so difficult. It was so difficult that he even felt a little hopeless. No, I can't be anxious, and I can't be completely hopeless. Jian Wushuang clenched his teeth and quickly calmed down. Chapter 3570. Death? Jian Wushuang had experienced many storms, so he could remain absolutely calm no matter how angry he was. He knew very well that this human-shaped sculpture array was a test. Since it was a test, he naturally had a chance to pass it. Even if the chance was slim, there was still a glimmer of hope. Moreover, this test had a duration of 10 million years, which was an extremely long time for Jian Wushuang. I can't be impatient. After all, I've only been trapped on this high platform for 3,000 years. I still have enough time. If I devote myself to studying sword principle and swordsmanship in the remaining long years, who knows what level I will reach? Jian Wushuang clenched his hands. His heart also became firm. Then Jian Wushuang looked at the human-shaped statues in front of him. The 6 human-shaped statues just now displayed swordsmanship at the peak of the skill level, but when they combined their swordsmanship, the power of their swordsmanship suddenly increased by dozens of times. How did their swordsmanship merge together? And how did the power of their swordsmanship suddenly increase so much? Jian Wushuang was full of doubt and puzzlement. Soon, he fought with the 6 human-shaped statues again. This time, Jian Wushuang wanted to see how the human-shaped statues combined their sword skills to increase their power. The process of combining sword skills would certainly be of great help to his swordsmanship and sword principle. On the high platform, Jian Wushuang was soon immersed in the bitter cultivation of his swordsmanship. Time passed quickly. In the blink of an eye, Jian Wushuang had been trapped on the high platform for 10,000 years. During these 10,000 years, the special space-time was certainly calm, but the outside world of the special space-time was still in a state of fervor, especially in Star Palace. It has been 10,000 years after Heavenly Sword Marquis entered the unexplored area of Devil Smoke Valley. There has been no trace of him for more than 10,000 years. I'm afraid he has already met his doom. Several high-level experts of the Star Palace gathered together. Among them, the Master of 7 Emotions was the first to speak. The 3 great battlefields are extremely dangerous. Therefore, not only our Star Palace, but also experts from the surrounding star realms and various forces will maintain contact with the outside world while adventuring in the 3 great battlefields. Every once in a while, they will take the initiative to report their situation to the higher-ups. They will also let the higher-ups of the forces they are in know that he is at least still alive. But now, little friend Heavenly Sword Marquis has been missing for a full 10,000 years. According to what we know, little friend Heavenly Sword Marquis hasn't been born in the divine beginning realm for more than 10,000 years. Now, he has disappeared for such a long time. Moreover, he is in an unexplored region. Most likely, he has already fallen, Acts 1 Master added. Hearing this, the people around them also fell silent. If one suddenly lost contact with the outside world while adventuring in the 3 battlefields, it was possible that they had fallen into some sort of predicament or special space-time. Falling into these places did not mean that they would fall. However, such a place would not be trapped for long. 10,000 years was indeed too long. Moreover, someone had seen Jian Wushuang enter the unexplored area in the depths of Devil Smoke Valley. Many dangers in the unexplored area were unknown. If one was careless, even a ruler realm expert could die instantly, let alone an ordinary principles master. Jian Wushuang had completely disappeared not long after entering the unexplored area, and it took him 10,000 years in an hour. It was almost certain that he was dead. It's a pity. It's really a pity. Marquis Duan, you could not help sighing. The Heavenly Sword Marquis is extremely talented, and his potential is limitless. If he did not die, his future achievements would be immeasurable. But now, Sai, he can't blame anyone. He can only blame himself. 7 Emotions Master said in a low voice. I said before that although Heavenly Sword Marquis has some strength, he is only an immortal saint. He still has a lot of room to grow, and there is no need to rush to the 3 battlefields. However, he went to the 3 battlefields, and he went to the unknown region in the depths of Devil Smoke Valley alone. Even some top principles masters don't dare to take risks in that place. As an immortal saint, it would be strange if he didn't die there. 7 Emotions Master was the only one among the 4 who had not dealt with Jian Wushuang. Therefore, she did not have to be too emotional about Jian Wushuang's death. At most, she felt a little pity. Heavenly Sword Marquis, you are indeed a little too impulsive this time. Marquis Duanyu said, Ladies and gentlemen, although this Heavenly Sword Marquis has been missing for 10,000 years, we cannot be sure that he is dead. Perhaps he still has a chance to live. Star Saint Master, who had not spoken up, said, Yes, it is too presumptuous to say that Heavenly Sword Marquis is dead now. We should wait for a while. If there is still no news from him, we can announce his death later, Axe One Master said. Jian Wushuang was now known as Bloodsword Master, and he had a certain reputation in the 3 battlefields. Most importantly, Axe One Master knew Jian Wushuang's true identity and strength. He also knew how much their palace master valued Jian Wushuang. This could be seen from the fact that Desolate Emperor, the Heaven Ancestor, had summoned Jian Wushuang alone. It was not appropriate for such an important figure to conclude that Jian Wushuang was dead, so they could only wait. By the way, I heard that when the Heavenly Sword Marquis was in the Divine Beginning Realm, he was still a member of the Temporal Temple. The founder of the Temporal Temple, the space-time ruler, has extraordinary means. The experts of the Temporal Temple under his command all left their life aura in their divine seats. We can send someone to the Temporal Temple to see if his divine seat is still there, Axe One Master said. It's useless. As soon as Axe One Master finished speaking, 7 Emotions Master shook his head and said, I've heard of the divine seat that contains the aura of life. It's not only in the Divine Beginning Realm, but also in some big forces in other astral worlds. But that thing is only useful in or around the astral world. If the cultivator is too far away from the divine seat, then he can't sense it. Right now, Heavenly Sword Marquis is in an unknown area deep in Devil Smoke Valley. It's too far away from the Divine Beginning Realm. Even if Heavenly Sword Marquis has fallen there, his divine position in the Divine Beginning Realm will not change. Chapter 35, 71. Can't you feel it? Axe One Master frowned slightly and took a deep breath after a while. In that case, we can only wait for another 20,000 years. If there is still no trace of the Heavenly Sword Marquis in the next 20,000 years, we can announce his death to the public. 20,000 years. The people around were surprised. After all, Jian Wushuang had been missing for 10,000 years. If the other cultivators under Star Palace had been missing for thousands of years, Star Palace would have announced his death. However, Jian Wushuang had to wait for 30,000 years before announcing his death. It was obvious how important Jian Wushuang was to Star Palace. Of course, Axe One Master and the others did not know the importance of Jian Wushuang, but they knew how much his palace master valued him. The reason why they had waited so long to announce Jian Wushuang's death was, to a large extent, because they wanted to wait until they were more certain before reporting the news to their palace master. In addition, they still had a glimmer of hope for Jian Wushuang. Unfortunately, after another 20,000 years, there was still no news of Jian Wushuang. This time, Axe One Master, Marquis Duanyu, and the others no longer had any hope for Jian Wushuang. Soon, the news of the Blood Sword Master's death spread throughout the territory. However, the 3 battlefields were extremely dangerous. There were countless experts from various forces in the star worlds. Although Jian Wushuang had a certain reputation, he was still a small fry compared to this territory. He was still a nobody. Even if the news of his death spread, it would not cause any ripples in this territory. At most, he would only have contact with Jian Wushuang, Heavy Master, Saber Python Master, and Purple Sound Master, who had a certain friendship with him, sighed slightly in their hearts. Time passed quickly, and the 3 battlefields were still bustling with activity. In the depths of Devil Smoke Valley, Jian Wushuang had been trapped here for 50,000 years in the special space-time zone in the unknown region. Being trapped for 50,000 years was a torture for Jian Wushuang. Fortunately, he could constantly fight with those human-shaped sculptures, and his swordsmanship and strength had been improving. Therefore, he was not too lonely and boring. In addition, after 50,000 years, he had become completely calm and even quiet. Now, he was not worried about his predicament at all. Instead, he was looking forward to his future. In these 50,000 years, I have fought with these 6 human-shaped sculptures many times. I have been pondering over the mysteries of their swordsmanship fusion. I didn't understand how their swordsmanship could be perfectly fused together, and why their power would increase so much after the fusion. But now I understand. Jian Wushuang stood there with a smile on his face as he looked at the 6 human-shaped sculptures in front of him. That was right. For 50,000 years, he was still stuck in the 6 human-shaped sculptures. Even though his swordsmanship had improved greatly, he still could not break through the obstacles of the 6 human-shaped sculptures. However, although he could not break through the obstacles of the 6 human-shaped sculptures, he understood the reason why the swordsmanship of the 6 human-shaped sculptures had suddenly skyrocketed. It's the sword principle. The reason why the sword techniques they displayed could be combined so perfectly is that the sword principle they have mastered is completely different from the sword principle I have mastered. My sword principle is the solipsistic sword principle, with myself as the core. Even the power of the sword principle originates from the sword world condensed in my body. However, the sword principle of these human-shaped sculptures doesn't have themselves as the core, but the entire heaven and earth as the core. The power of the sword principle they use also originates from the surrounding heaven and earth. To be exact, it originates from the vast universe. Although my sword world is stable and powerful, it's still just a small sword world. No matter how much my sword principle improves, its power will still be limited. However, the power of the sword principle from the universe is truly boundless. Jian Wushuang clenched his hands, his eyes shining with a bright light. Visit Re-Adel, me for extra chapters. He understood the shortcomings of his sword principle. Just as he said, his sword principle was centered on himself. Although it was powerful, it was too narrow. It was like a small stream. Although he could control it freely, how could the power of a small stream be compared to the mighty sea, let alone the entire universe? Wrong, wrong. Jian Wushuang laughed. I've been using the enlightenment system of the divine, beginning realm sword principle with my own sword principle as the core. I've been improving step by step according to the level of the divine, beginning realm sword principle. However, I've never thought that the divine beginning realm is just an unremarkable third-class world star in the vast universe. How could the cultivation system in this world star be complete? How can it all be right? I couldn't help it. I was born in the divine beginning realm, so my horizons were too small. I didn't see the true vastness of this universe, so I didn't question some of the cultivation and comprehension systems in the divine beginning realm. But now, I understand that the true sword Tao isn't based on oneself, but should be based on heaven and earth, with the vast universe as the core. That is the true vastness, the most powerful sword Tao. Jian Wushuang laughed crazily, and his laughter echoed in this special space and time. The laughter lasted for a long time before it finally calmed down. In the middle of the high platform, Jian Wushuang had already sat down with his legs crossed. His eyes were cold, and his body slightly shook. In an instant, a huge and complete sword world appeared in front of Jian Wushuang. This sword world was the sword principle world that Jian Wushuang had spent a great deal of money to condense. It represented Jian Wushuang's achievements in sword principle. Now, this sword world spanned 100,000 years. The boundless sword tree in the center was also 100,000 feet tall. Its branches were lush and lush, covering the entire sword world. In this sword world, there were mountains, rivers, and everything that a normal world should have. This was formed after Jian Wushuang reached the third level of sword principle and evolved everything. But now, looking at the sword world in front of him, Jian Wushuang's eyes were extremely cold. I have a hunch that my judgment is not wrong. Taking a deep breath, Jian Wushuang made up his mind. In an instant, the entire sword world began to collapse at an astonishing speed. Jian Wushuang had destroyed the sword world that he had painstakingly condensed. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 3572. The collapse of the sword world meant that all of Jian Wushuang's previous efforts in sword principle had been in vain. This step was not easily accomplished. Even Jian Wushuang had made a great determination, even with a hint of a gamble. He did not know if his guess was correct, but he knew that his sword principle was indeed too narrow. If he wanted to change this, he had to change his previous understanding of sword principle and start afresh. This was what Jian Wushuang had already done. Sword principle, with the vast universe as its core. Jian Wushuang closed his eyes and began to touch the sword principle in the vast universe. Time continued to pass like flowing water, while Jian Wushuang chose to destroy his sword world and start comprehending the universal sword principle again. In this territory, there was an ordinary Earth star not far from the divine beginning realm. This Earth star had been occupied by someone a long time ago, and the force that occupied it was called the Sacred Island. Sacred Island was built on the foundation of the 3 saint realms of the divine beginning realm. The cultivators on the Sacred Island were mostly experts who came from the 3 saint realms. However, because the Sacred Island did not have a ruler realm expert overseeing it, thus, the Sacred Island was only a small faction in this territory. It was far inferior to the Star Palace. However, at this moment, in the center of the Sacred Island, in a majestic palace, there were 3 figures sitting on towering thrones in 3 different directions. Below them, there was a peak level 6 realm principles master. He was respectfully kneeling there. It must be known that a peak 6th realm principles master could be considered a peak expert even in this territory. Normally, even if he met an expert at the pinnacle of the 6th realm, he would at most lower his stance slightly. However, this peak 6th realm principles master was actually kneeling here. One could imagine how powerful the 3 people he was kneeling on were. That was right, the 3 people sitting on the throne were the 3 rulers. It's been so long. Is there still no news from Heavenly Sword Marquis? An indifferent voice rang out as the tall man in front of him looked down. His eyes were ice cold and contained a faint evil intent. Anyone who saw him would shudder. "My lord, there is no news," the peak 6th realm principles master respectfully replied. Facing 3 genuine rulers, especially knowing their true origins and identities, this principles master did not even dare to breathe loudly. "The 3 of us have already been in this territory for 30,000 years, while Heavenly Sword Marquis has been missing for 20,000 years before we arrived. In that case, he has been missing for 50,000 years. From the looks of it, he should already be dead," the tall man said. "That should be the case." The evil-looking youth wearing a scarlet cape on the other throne said with a strange smile, "I have a certain understanding of this territory, and I also know the existence of the 3 battlefields in this territory. Those 3 battlefields should come from the depths of the universe or even the core, and they contain endless dangers. As for the unexplored area in the core of Devil's Smoke Valley, let alone that Heavenly Sword Marquis, even the 3 of us would die if we were careless. Heavenly Sword Marquis has been trapped in the undiscovered region for 50,000 years. No matter how you look at it, he is definitely dead." "My lord, you are right. When Heavenly Sword Marquis entered the undiscovered region of Devil's Smoke Valley and disappeared without a trace, he was already considered dead. However, the Star Palace did not release any news until 30,000 years after he disappeared. The Star Palace finally announced his death. If even the Star Palace thinks so, then Heavenly Sword Marquis should no longer have any chance of survival." The kneeling principles master said, "Since we are all going to die for sure, Why are the three of us still standing here like idiots? Let's go back. The last of the three rulers, a child-faced, white-haired old man, spoke out. Don't be impatient. The tall man laughed. We spent tens of thousands of years in order to reach this territory. How can we go back in such a hurry? Even if Heavenly Sword Marquis is dead, you have to know that the three battlefields in this territory are indeed a great treasure land. The opportunities contained in them are no small matter. The three of us can spend some time exploring these three battlefields and obtain some opportunities. This won't be a wasted trip. Visit Readel, me for extra chapters. Moreover, this matter was ordered by that lord. That lord said that he must kill Heavenly Sword Marquis no matter what. Although he has been missing for 50,000 years and the probability of him dying is over 99%, we haven't really seen his corpse. If we go back like this, it will be very difficult to explain in front of that lord. Therefore, it's better to wait. MH, I agree. The devilish youth laughed. The three great battlefields are indeed quite good, and there are many opportunities. The most important thing is that there aren't many people competing against each other. This isn't like the territory we are in. Although there are many places with great opportunities, there are simply too many experts there. How can this place be like this? There are only a few dozen rulers in this entire territory, and all of them are ordinary rulers. Since you think so, then let's wait a little longer. The child-faced, white-haired old man nodded. Then he shouted, "Right, doesn't that lord have 3 slaves in the divine beginning realm? I need some natural treasures. This is the list. Tell them to collect them quickly and send them to me." Yes, the principal's master was so scared that he nodded immediately. The 3 of them were not rulers of this territory, but came from other territories. The reason why they came to this territory was very simple. It was for Jian Wushuang. To be exact, it was for the divine beginning realm. In the divine beginning realm, the 3 saint realms ruled over everything, and behind the 3 saint realms was the heavenly Tao will of the divine beginning realm. In the world-destroying battle countless years ago, the 7-star mysterious sect was destroyed and Xian Yi was killed. The reason for that battle was because Xian Yi's existence threatened the divine will of the divine beginning realm. After that, the divine will invited many experts from outside the world to destroy the 7-star mysterious sect and kill Xian Yi. This time, the 3 rulers in the hall were also invited by the divine will of the divine beginning realm to kill Jian Wushuang. They had arrived here 30,000 years ago, but when they arrived, Jian Wushuang had already entered the unknown region of Devil Smoke Valley and had been missing for more than 20,000 years. After all, the sacred island was founded on the 3 saint realms, so it had been paying close attention to Jian Wushuang. When Jian Wushuang was traveling in the 3 battlefields under the name of Blood Sword Master and killed Sacred Island's Dragonhawk Master, the Sacred Island had already guessed that Blood Sword Master was Jian Wushuang. Therefore, Sacred Island knew that Jian Wushuang had entered the unexplored area of Devil Smoke Valley and had been missing. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible.